On the Brooklyn Bridge tonight, voices strong, knowledge tight, thorough black talk in the air, changing minds, changing flair. From brother Tad to sister Kate, warriors got things to say. Sister Marcia brings the heat, brother Blacksmith keeps the beat. Revolutionary waves they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral light. Thursday nights, the world will see Black Power Media on the screen. Facebook, YouTube, all aligned, breaking free from everybody. Social talk and politics, every voice breaks through the matrix. Commentary raw and true, for the many, not the few. Revolutionary waves they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral light. Ancestral line.
Good evening, family. New York created the first Office of the New Americans, fully funded, fully staffed, and protected by law. Other sanctuary states followed that model without hesitation. But when foundational Black Americans demand for reparations for centuries of stolen labor, the state suddenly offers commissions instead of cash, studies instead of restitution, and equity language instead of accountability. Tonight, we expose the Office of the New American and the policy contradiction it represents. We compare who gets permanent funding, who gets delayed justice, and why data disaggregation is the issue the state refuses to confront. Reparations are not services. They are a debt owed. This is thorough Black talk. Let's get into it, family. I hope everybody is doing well. Man, oh man, oh man. Just came back from the OG Wisdom podcast. Man, if you haven't seen it yet, you should. You can always catch the replay on Thorough Black Talk Worldview's Facebook page, because we share. That's my brothers from other mothers. And we get into it. Going about hip-hop classics, hip-hop alleged beefs, hip-hop alleged contradictions, and you never know what we're going to talk about on the OG Wisdom podcast, but you never, ever, ever want to miss an episode with your brother Tad and C Gutter, and once in a while I pop up in there. If you missed it the other night, I was spitting bars, baby, spitting bars. Let's get my brother from the OG Wisdom podcast, Brother Tad, up on the Brooklyn Bridge. Brother, what's happening?
Peace, sis. We on for the night. Oh,
yes,
man.
Indeed, we in the black.
definitely a dope conversation. Got to protect that BK legacy. We ain't gonna let nobody shambuku on us. But shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to our brother New York in the house. Our brother Rich Nice. They done left OG Wisdom and came over here, thorough black talk with us. So we definitely appreciate y'all brothers holding us down like gravity. Shout out to Uncle Jesse too.
Uncle Jesse, Mama Marie. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Then you got our sister Tanisha, one of our favorite go-to sponsors. And I'm not talking to talk. She really does sponsor the show sometime. So y'all better recognize. Sister Joyce, Brother Monty, Suffolk County. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? This is my OG Wisdom boyfriend, y'all. I'm telling you right now. When you come on OG Wisdom Podcast and you talking reckless about me, he gonna have some words for you in the chat. All right? So don't get out of pocket because you don't want that work. Again, shout out to our brother Rich Nice. Thank you for rocking out with us, brother. We truly, truly appreciate you. And of course, our troublemaker, and roof shaker, Sister Farnessa, on the check-in. What's happening? Big Russ, Philly in the building. What up, family? How are you? And of course, our sister Breuck. We going in later, family, because, we often talk about policy here in the United States. And oftentimes, and I know you've heard it, Brother Tag, people from other nations come here and say, well, we do better than y'all. Why you don't use the opportunities before you? And sometimes people say, well, that's just rhetoric, but it's not rhetoric. There is actually policies dead set against us, but in favor of the immigrant. And we're going to prove that tonight. Going back, and this is not nothing new. These policies have been enacted going back to 1996. And I'm going to prove it tonight. Some of your favorite politicians were on board with this, especially in New York, because in New York, this was the first sanctuary city which enacted an office for the new American. So we're going to get into that as well. Brother Black, you ready? Let's get the BX up on the Brooklyn Bridge. What's happening, brother? How are you?
Peace, Sister Keisha. Peace, Brother Tad. Brother Tad, before we go in, I got to fuss you out a little. Tag me with that old...
I know he's going to start with me. Go ahead, brother.
No. You weren't here last week, so I got to tell you now. Real talk, though. Tag me on the OG Wisdom podcast, man. I want to listen in. I want to...
Yes, sir.
I want to be a part of that. Real
copy.
Talk.
I got you. No doubt.
Okay.
No doubt.
Sister Keisha, how are you, sweetie?
I'm good, brother. How are you doing?
All right. You're looking good. Looking good over there. I know it's cold up top right now.
Freezing.
Look, I thought Black was gonna give me a real hard time. I thought he was like, look, we ain't argue in a couple of weeks, so he like, let me get my brother acclimated to the hostility again.
And you ain't give me the Vulcan hand grip thing, man.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. There we
go. About to
See,
hit you with the want.
we still got 2 hours, bro. Minimum. Sister Keisha, because I want to keep the focus on FBA, I'm only going to bring up 2 things that people out there may need to know if they want to know, whatever the case may be. 2
Let
things.
It go, brother. Let it go.
2 things I don't hear us talking enough about. There may be another government shutdown at the end of or beginning of next week, or let's say the 31st of the month, going into the 1st of next month, February. There may be another government shutdown. Remember now, the government hasn't paid their bills to the tune of $38 trillion, not billion, trillion. So that's a trillion 38 times, y'all. That ain't money that you just sneeze at, what have you. So again, this is why a lot of this effery, especially in Minnesota, is happening to distract us, because you're dealing with internationalness when you're dealing with this, and it's now coming out. And we all knew this on this show, I'm sure, and most of y'all watching out there. It's a lady named Amy Bach, who is the facilitator of all of that fraud going on in Minnesota. So they facilitate that with foreigners because I don't know if you heard about this one. About 2-3 weeks ago, it was said that $500,000 left the Minneapolis airport going back to Somalia or Ethiopia or wherever they were shipping that money to. Cash. It's hard to get $10,000 worth of cash out of this country without it being reported. How you gonna get millions out? This is tied? This is to prove how rife with corruption this country is, because the Somalians couldn't have done that on their own. So they had co-conspirators probably already set up before they even got here for them to walk into. Just like how Hasidic Jews walk into welfare cases, all they got to do is sign the paperwork. They don't got to go into the offices in Brooklyn, Manhattan, in New York City. The ones you see there is recertifying, and they probably had to see them face to face just so they can say, okay, this is me as a person. 3 years later after they got here. So there's a lot of international stuff going on. And the only other thing that I wanted to talk about is even a lot of this stuff going on between the internet content providers, which we are as well, fighting and stuff like that. That's for Black people who don't watch television so that we can have something to talk about. Nicki Minaj being a Trump fan now and all this and that. As quiet as it's kept, and I'm sure y'all heard this when he got his first election in 2016, that a lot of we from New York, so we all know that most rappers and MCs was going to Trump parties in the 90s because his daughter, the one that's married to Jared Kushner now, is a big hip hop fan. She know all of them. She knows them personally. They used to go to his parties and all of that. So what I'm looking at Nicki Minaj is, and she's non-FBA too, so this is very important in this equation. They probably had her as a spook by the daughter come out in the last minutes to make people focus on him, because her audience ain't people from the hood. Her audience is suburban white kids that are probably now entering their 30s. Her peak was 10 years ago.
And the Zesties.
Okay, that too. She had those alter egos, Roman, and all that other stuff she was doing when she was in the peak of her popularity. Now it's kind of on Meg and Cardi. So we're not really focused on. She's already established. She's like the Jay-Z of female rappers at this point. So she really don't have nothing to prove at this point. She already exposed all of them dudes in Diddy's circle up to Ray J. She even told Ray J a few months ago, why don't you just come out and tell everybody all of y'all gay? She ain't say just him, all of y'all. Whoever that means. Yeah. So, a lot of this stuff is distraction. I mean, it's good to pay attention to, because some of it is true, and whatever ain't true, we can't prove it. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? When you diddling kids is when we have a problem. What y'all do as adults, whatever. And with that said, I just wanted to say that, again, I've been saying this for the last few weeks now. Watch out for the distractions. Don't get hit with the okie doke and then be on some side. And now, even the Anton and Corey Holcomb thing. You know what I'm saying? Just watch that stuff and then pivot and then do what you got to do. And the focus is on winning. If you FBA, get your reparations, get your bread, get your property. That's another thing that Trump talked into effect last week, where indigenous people that can prove they had claims to certain lands. We already know Sister Keisha always covers this stuff, but it's coming out to the point where now you can make those claims. I've been telling y'all that the name of the game on the galactic levels for the Galactic Federation to oversee Trump giving his country back to the righteous owners. And with that said, I'm going to give it back to my sis. I'm watching from here. Peace.
All right. Back to the galaxy he goes.
Pew! Nanu.
That galaxy, hey, Brooklyn's the planet. The galaxy is the Bronx.
Oh, boy.
Mute his mic.
For the rest of the evening, you are now banned. It's finished. It's done for you. You understand? Shots fired. It's over. It's over. It's over. I'm waiting for her to give me the thumbs up. I'm waiting for her. Africans on the rise. Sister Marcia, what's happening?
And peace, family. Happy Blacktastic Thursday. Sister Keisha, Brother Tad, Brother Black. How is everyone today?
Peace, sis. Blessed.
That's the best thing to be.
Man, we got a lot to discuss tonight. I mean, I dug in the crates, and I tell you, and I think Sister Marcia said this before, they allow these things to happen. But it's now codified in policy and soon to be law if we are not careful. And it is very, very dangerous. Last week, we played some clips from the book Behind the Coloring Line, behind Roy Beck, Behind the Hiring Line. Very, very great book. It's available on Audible for those who prefer that method. And it explains explicitly how immigration has always been a problem for Black Americans in particular. The late Barbara Jordan, one of the greatest in Congress to ever do it, also talked about this. We played clips from, civil rights or activists in the past, like A. Philip Randolph. He talked about the dangers of it. Frederick Douglass talked about the dangers of it. And tonight we're going to expose the policy going back to 1996, New York City being the hotbed for it. Because you always want to ask that question, why do so many immigrants come to New York? Why are you coming here? Why are you coming here? And that's because they roll out the red carpet for you. They roll out legal advice. In fact, shout out to Sister BX. But we sat in on a Zoom call last week where you had Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, Hakeem Jeffries. You had Assemblywoman Bichot, I think that's her last name. She was on. Roxanne Passard was on this call, along with 200 other people. And you had various organizations from the Haitian community who were on that call, who actually facilitated that call. One of the organizations were saying that they, in particular, advocate and, work for Black girls in Haiti who have been essayed or have suffered in that manner. And, they were trying to revitalize programs for them. One of the things that I found quite disturbing is I asked the question, what about girls here? What about women and girls who were essayed and kidnapped here? Do you offer any help for them? And I didn't get a response. And I was actually in the front of the call, and I didn't get a response. And I asked the question again. I also asked that I get the transcript for that call. I'm still waiting. They said they was going to send it out, but I'm still waiting. Because for me, I don't understand how, you advocate for protection of Black girls and Black women, but you leave the populace of the nation in which you reside. For me, that's problematic. And so I did a little recording from that meeting. And hopefully tonight, or I'm sure tonight, I will be able to play, some of that recording from that meeting where they talked about offering legal advice and legal help for all of these people and nothing for Black American women or anybody, Black American, me neither, for that matter, offer them nothing here. So, tonight we're going to talk about that as well. And so before we get into that, I wanted to show some clips of some of the verbiage that has been going on online. And some of you may not know about some of the things that are being said, but we're going to go through some videos and then we'll get right into our spill while we wait for Sister Breuck and Brother Devon to get up in here. So let's play this video and we come right back.
Deny these facts. Why is it immigrants are not stopping reparations?
My ancestors come from the Caribbean, and there were slaves in the Caribbean, and we didn't
qualify for the American reparations.
Well, here's the challenge. There are so many difficulties with trying to enact reparations, in part because the question is who gets them. Potentially, I could fall into that category. I honestly have called a pipe dream in the past, and I think that's what it is.
Well, it would be nice if there was an elegant, simple solution to all sorts of complicated problems. You're not actually talking about how to fix those problems if you're only talking about reparations. If we're only debating how we're going to parcel out responsibility for something that happened more than a century ago. And we're probably never going to do this. It's not clear to me why we're pursuing this thing.
Is it fair that there's no reparations, no restitution, nothing?
The Irish get reparations, by the way. Irish need not apply signs when they came here during the progressive era. I mean, how far do we want to take this down? Are we acknowledging that there are ugly spots in history? Because 60% of the world would be entitled to slave reparations if you wanted to play that game.
Well, here's a fact. Slavery ended 154 years ago. It's been a long, long time since we had slavery in this country. And you have people like my family. I'm Black, but my family came to the United States in 1962. My parents are from Costa Rica. Do I get a check?
I did a couple of essay contests that I actually won. And I won like NAACP AXO award for this essay and something else. I can't remember another, like I ended up winning money. And the essay was, do you think Black people should get reparations? And I was like, no, you didn't work for it.
Why are you so against reparations?
Valerie, it's a matter of a waste of time. We've got so much to do. And yet you have people who invest so much energy and attention on what I consider to be a dead-end idea, a dead-end movement.
If we were to pay reparations today, we would only divide the country further. We would insult many Black Americans by putting a price on the suffering of their ancestors.
Reparations from slavery and Black victimization is about to be shoved down our throats for the most wretched holiday in America. BLM raised millions, but what did they do for Black lives? It is outrageous to see people asking for reparations, even though they never went through slavery. These ungrateful people should be celebrated because they were born in the greatest nation to ever exist. Here's a tip. If you don't like America, kindly step out.
So as you see, all of the commentary came from immigrants. And when you look at the policy of these offices of the New American, the talking points are outlined for them to say, whether they are politicians, whether they are, organization leaders, or even everyday folks, they all spew the same thing. But there are no conversations about, why can't we stop this type of foolishness? Where are the organizations that say, why won't we stay out of Black American business? And shout out to Brother Ray Ray and the BK Mackey History Club. Some of what he said is right. But it's not just them, Ray Ray. It is a consortium. And, when people say they don't care about us, they mean that they come here for an opportunity. At whose ever expense, they do not care. And we're going to discuss all of that later on. Let's play this clip and we'll come right back.
And one thing only that African people care about, including me myself, I come to your country. I don't care where it is. I am here to make money. That's just the sad reality. But it is the reality. Me as myself, when I went to Nairobi, when I lived in Kenya, I went to take. When I went to South Africa, I went to take. When I went to Dubai, I went to take. I did not go to build the countries, because in my country where I come from, I am poor, and I left my country because there's nothing for me to do. I didn't see any ways of getting rich in my country, so I decided to come to other countries to do something for myself. So unfortunately, I can't tell my African American brothers and sisters that when African people come to America, expect them to build with you. No, we're here to take. We are here to take. The American government, like right now, it's welcoming immigrants like nobody's business. Every African person who is in a dire situation or who sees there's an opportunity for me to get a green card, they would do whatever it takes to come to America, knowing very well that the government right now is prioritizing foreigners instead of its own people, which is not my fault. My own business is to come there and grab whatever I can. And if your government is supporting me to take as much as I can, who am I to refuse? Who doesn't want to live in America? So don't be surprised when you see these African men or African women get with older men or older women just to get the green card. That is what we do because we are in a dire situation in our countries. So we are running away to come to your country so we can have a better life, because, I mean, who does not know about the American dream? And then if we come and then Joe Biden pampers us and forgets that he has Democrats to take care of, it's none of our business. That's the reality. That's the reality. When we come there, don't expect us to build America for who? You have a lot we are here to take. That's the truth. And I know I might sound arrogant, but I'm not a person who sugarcoats the truth. So when we come to your countries, just know we are not here to have mercy on you. We are here to take. There's one thing and one thing only that African people care about, including me myself. I come to your country. I don't care where it is. I am here to make money. That's just the sad reality. But it is the reality. Me as myself, when I went to Nairobi, when I lived in Kenya, I went to take. When I went to South,
you know, Brother Ray said it's hard to hear this crap, but it is a reality. It is a reality, and it has to be dealt with. We can no longer turn a blind eye, especially since the delineation movement is growing and growing like never before. They are throwing everything but the kitchen sink to try to break up the delineation movement, and it's not happening. It is not happening. Whether they have paid Democratic shills to speak out against us, or people with various platforms to speak out against us, it's not happening. And I don't know if you've heard the latest episode of Grits and Eggs. Here it is, Democratic shill. And they always got paid actors to come in and try to disrupt. And let me tell you something. I have never seen Black Americans on code like never before. And that's why they're trying to throw everything against us. Let's hear this clip and we'll come right back.
Like Tariq Nasheed gaining such a following because he's abusive in his verbiage, he's abusive in his rhetoric, and he's here to divide. And his psychology is that of a pimp. All of his books prior to his Black liberation, Black nationalist, Black power movement, all his books was about being a player and a pickup artist. Basically, he was trying to teach you how to be a pimp. Well, we know the pimp to pastor pipeline. A lot of niggas jump out the pimp and go straight into the pastor. That's the best thing smoking. But as things change, as cultures change and evolve, well, he just decided to do it in the Pan-African Black space and then dropped the Pan-Africanism. Hidden Colors was all about what was going on in Africa. All this acknowledgement of Africa. A film directed by him, produced by him. Extremely Pan-African film. What is the person who has this gift of gab? The pickup artist, the pimp, who has seen a righteous path, but didn't see no money in that. Well, what do you got to do? You got to get back to pimping. But you're going to pimp minds. So what is the advocacy for? What is the abuse that he carries out? Separation versus inclusion. He wants the Black American to separate from global blackness. He wants you isolated here on your own. What do cult leaders do? They separate you. They promise you all these great things. They speak sweet nothings to you. He's going to tell you about every accomplishment that the Black American has made, created, or been involved in. He's going to continue to remind you and pump this false sense of superiority into you. Instead of being inclusionary, understanding that Africans have had a hand in some of the biggest inventions in this world.
Where?
Word.
Where? Which ones? Which ones? And this is why I'm saying y'all got to know the difference between someone who is an ally and someone who is a foe. And this guy is a foe. He is a paid shield. But again, Malcolm was a pimp. Malcolm was a pimp. So what are you saying? What are you saying? That's why they would never have none of us on their platform, because we would destroy them with their own argument. We ain't even got to come with nothing. Just destroy them with their own argument. Brother Tad, your thoughts on the videos that you've seen?
I always thought something was suspect about homie anyway. I didn't know if he was part of the Rainbow Crew from day one. Sometimes he could drop little facts, but then we got to realize when it's sprinkled with their opinion, because he sprinkled an opinion to say most of the inventions were created by Africans, which is not true. Anybody could chat GPT, Google, Gemini, whatever your preference is for your search engine. Look up Black American inventions and then look up African inventions, and then look at the population. So they have such a small percentage of inventors compared to our great percentage of inventors. And in terms of Tariq Nasheed, I will say this as someone from the Pan-African community. He never claimed Pan-Africanism. He never had. From Hidden Colors 1 on. I remember in the Pan-African movement, people who didn't want to see the movie say, oh, because he's one of them Moors. He's one of them people that, because, it's hard.
And it was the same people who was bootlegging the film. But go ahead.
Yeah. And I'm going to say this. It's hard to please Black people because for one problem is we act like we're a monolith. We act like we're all supposed to go along to get along. And it's always Black Americans who have to embrace everybody. Meanwhile, everybody could kick us to the curb the moment they want to. Come here, disrespect us, like we seen the video, the earlier videos where everybody were honest. And that's cool. I respect that. You're supposed to feel that way. Well, homegirl say everywhere she goes to take. She's being honest. Well, I'm going to be upset with a truth teller. She's telling her truth. These things we already know to be true. They're not coming here to align with us. They're not coming here to be allies with us. And that's just a fact. And anybody who think we can do this kumbaya thing is delusional. I was once delusional. I remember I thought I was going to go to Africa and be in Wakanda. It's just not like that. No matter where you go, there's always division. There's always tribalism. Shit, look within your own family. I bet you one group of cousins don't get along with another. Some of y'all don't talk to your aunts, uncles, mamas, and siblings. It's the human experience. So as humans, you got to do what's in the best interest of you and your peer group and those who think like you. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And with that, I'm getting off my soapbox.
Sister Marcy, your thoughts on some of the videos?
And some of us don't like each other because we're not from Brooklyn.
That's a fact, because we don't rock with the Bronx. I don't know how Black.
Can we tell him to stay off his mic? This is what's wrong with the Bronx right now. You see, this is what's wrong right now. You got a little dog out there and all that. This is the problem right now.
Sister got a tank top on. We all got on hoodies. Me and Sister Marcy, we cold. With the heat on, we cold. He out there with a tank top and the lemonade.
I'm telling you, boy. I'm telling you. Go ahead, Sister Marcia. Fix it, white Jesus. Go ahead.
Please don't put the white man on me. You can take him away. But we'll all try to analyze people and things people have done and said, and there are good works and there are bad works. So Tariq Nasheed put out some good material. I was one of them that was like, yo, people, everybody, come, let's go see Pan-African, non-Pan-African. I had 2 showings for 2 or 3 of Tyreek's films. So I respect his work and his ability to be very clear, right? He didn't put his objections or his viewpoints. He just let the material speak for himself. And I respect that. Anything else that he does, I feel like people are just so blind to the idea of what it means to be lineage based, right? To know who your people are. And so many of my people don't know who their people are. So many of people don't know who their people are. And so that's what the problem is, because now it's asking you to open your family book and see who your people are. And you're afraid to say that you have enslavements because you keep thinking like the West Indies or the Caribbean folks, for one, love to say like, oh, Black people were slaves, but or in America there were slaves, but you're going to try to tell me that in Jamaica there was no slaves? In Haiti, there was no slaves. In the Dominican Republic or wherever there was no slaves, Haiti fought against slavery, in its totality. So the idea that so many people denounce slavery from their home country, and then when one country is saying, yo, I understand that this happened, and I also understand that there were more people in the land that is here that you're not respecting, and I want those people to be respected. I think there's a problem with people not understanding clearly. And for that other young lady to sit there and say that everywhere I go to take, she just sounds like a different type of colonizer, where everywhere they go to take. And then you're left with the residue of what they've been taken. And at this point, we need to understand that everywhere people go, they steal and they take from people, and they're leaving us not knowing who we are. And it works like, I'm sorry, there's a lot of noise happening in my house, but it works like this, that allows people to look through the background and see where they are, who they are, and who they can be. Because if you continue to sit there and think that you're going to be an American without respecting the people that were there, then you're problematic, because you won't go back to Haiti because you won't feel able to be respected. So you feel like you could trample on other people, and that's not fair. So that's my thoughts for right now. Thank you.
Cool. We're gonna play this clip and then we're gonna bring our sister Breuck in. Let's listen to Amanda Seals talk her shit. Hold on.
You are a representative of the FBI. Every single person that I've seen that makes reference to FBA, Foundation of Black Americans, you are.
Yeah, cut her ass off now.
How is it that because I'm a Black American, I'm the FBA? I mean the FBI. How is that possible? How is that possible? And of course, Brother Tag can speak to this as well. Within Pan-Africanism, they speak to destroy everything that is American, but they ain't leaving here. They can wave all kind of flags, but they ain't leaving here. But they want you to denounce the American flag, who, by the way, was designed by a 13-year-old free Black girl. How was that possible? How was that possible? And I tell you, and we've said it here many times before, because it doesn't fit a particular narrative. That's why. And so last week, they had the Reparations Commission hearing in Binghamton, New York. And Sister Breuck and Brother Devon was there in person. I was there via Zoom. And one of the speakers was Camilla Moore. And she is an attorney, was head of the California Reparations Commission, and she broke down constitutional law and how it relates. She also codified why disaggregation and delineation is a must, that you cannot grandfather clause everybody into our claim. And that's why, you know, people got so uptight, Brother Tad, when we went to that event a few months ago. And I said, you all are so used to leaning on our legacy, you don't know how
That started the uproar.
Everybody lost their mind. Everybody lost their mind. And in social media spaces, it got over 200,000 views. But people lost their mind just from that simple sentence that I said. They lost their mind because they know it's the truth. They know it's the truth. And so we're going to get Sister Breuck up on the bridge, and then we're going to get into Camilla Moore, because I'm going to break down the policies. And I want you to have a clear understanding after I break down the policies of why you hear these talking points, who was making these talking points, why we are regulated to commission studies and things of that nature while immigrants attain tangible. So welcome to the Brooklyn Bridge, reparations activist, Sister Breuck. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
Peace, sis.
Wait, before we can't hear you, but before you say something,
okay.
Before you start, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Ricky. Many
Thank
more.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Sister
much.
Brooke,
I
as the
really
oldest one
appreciate
on this show, don't tell us how old you are.
that. You never know. I might be. You never know. That black don't crack.
Good black don't crack.
Okay.
Unless
so
you smoke it.
And honey, we have seen that the crack keeps them closer together than that new stuff they got going on. Because Lord have mercy. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I almost forgot. You know what I mean? That yesterday was my birthday. Yes, it was. I got my list already. You know, my notes and stuff already ready. But let me say hello. Hello, Sister Marcia. Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. Hello, Brother Breuck. Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. Hello, Big Bro Ted. Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. And hello to my big sister Keisha. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Yeah, okay. So I got so many notes.
Let me get Brother Divine up on the bridge while you get the notes.
Go ahead.
The U.S. Freedmen Project president, our ally, our lobbyist for disaggregation and reparations, Brother Divine Prince. What's happening, brother?
Good evening, family. What's going on?
Peace, Brother Divine.
Come on. You was MIA and you was definitely missed last week, Brother Tad. What's good?
Nothing. I was tapped in, though. I was definitely listening.
Okay, good. I didn't know if you was out there hotep and a high step, so I was like, let me let him. Okay, you know what I'm saying?
Brother Divine, he was out there with the bean pie, my brother dudes.
Yeah.
Salami bacon, brother.
Good evening, Brother Black, Sister Marcia, my big homie, Brother Tad, and my big sister, Keish. What's going on, OG?
What's happening? So we're going to get into it. I want to see Sister Brooks' take on those video clips that we played before she came through.
All right. First thing I want to address is when because you know I've been taking notes since the beginning. Brother Black, when you had said that that they had set up the Somalis to partake in the fraud that was happening. I wanted to let you know that we're not dumb enough to think we could get away with shit like that. And that is how they were able to get that is, like we already know that that something like that is a trap, especially those, hindsight is 2020, coming out of the 60s and stuff like that, with the COINTELPRO was at its height. We are well aware that this is what they will do to you, that they will set you up for a fall. So that's why, the Somalis or other immigrant groups are susceptible to this, because they don't, number one, they don't listen. We tried to tell people that this is how they move, but they think that we slaves and, we don't know shit. And so then they think that they know better than us. So they go and align themselves with people who don't believe in treaties, who don't believe in promises, who always go back on their word. And that's why we have phrases like, that white supremacists will break their tools after using them. We know this, but they didn't want to listen. So now that they fall in their own trap, and we like, it's not our business. You know what I'm saying? There was a video. I'm gonna see if I can find it, Keisha. There was a video of this Black woman, foundational Black American woman, who worked at the DMV, right? And the other people who worked at the DMV was trying to get her in on this scheme where they was taking $200 and passing people through without taking the test for licenses. And she was the one who told on it. She was like, nah. They tried to get her to get in on it. She said, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. And she was the one who broke the story. And so, like I said, we are the ones who know that that's not going to work out well for you in the end, right? Then you guys talked about Nikki wanting Nikki and her citizenship. Well, she got the right to stay here. She didn't get citizenship. That's number one. And then number two,
She got
that's
resident status, correct?
Resident status. That's all she wanted. I don't believe she was ever COINTELPRO. Nikki is an opportunist. She will fake the funk. She will lie. She will do whatever. She will get on her knees. She will do whatever it takes to get where she wants to go. And right now, that's what she wanted. And so she's willing to do that. I don't think she was ever a spy or anything like that. Like I said, she's an opportunist, and all she wanted was the right to not go back home. Sister Marcia, you said you mentioned that how people are confused about lineage. I'm gonna give just a little bit of pushback on that. I do think that they are confused about lineage, but they seem to be ultra confused when it comes to our lineage, because everybody else gets to wave their flag. As a person from East Flatbush, everybody else gets to wave their flag, but the second we're saying that we're American, there is a problem. That doesn't make sense, especially since, let's just take Aboriginal or Native ancestry out of the picture, which you really can't do when it comes to our lineage, but let's just say you can. If you take that part out of the picture and you only say that we were brought here on ships, then we have been here just as long as the Jamaican has been in Jamaica, just as long as the Trinidadian has been in Trinidad, just as long as the Guyanese have been in Guyana, just as long, etc., etc., etc. But we are the only ones that are not supposed to claim our heritage. How is that? So that's why I say, they seem to be ultra confused when it comes to our heritage. Now, to the woman who said she would take, ain't that what they doing?
Yep, and that's why they getting rounded up.
And that's why we don't give a rat's ass. Okay? That's why we don't care. You came here to take, and we here to let them round you up. Not my business, not my problem. And then Amanda Seals. Amanda Seals is a woman who has burned all her bridges. Every friend she's had, she's turned on them. She has no loyalty within her. And wasn't she saying she was FBA not too long ago? Wasn't she saying that her father was a foundational Black American? So that made her half FBA too. And now all of a sudden it's the FBI. So is your daddy the FBI, ma'am? And I'll end there.
You brought up the woman from the DMV. Let's play this.
That's the video.
And I want my job back. At a Louisville DMV, the place meant to vet safe and legal drivers, some clerks were instead allegedly making money in a dangerous side hustle.
Undocumented workers would come in
to the office, they would be bypassed without even taking a permit test or taking the road test. They would then be paid under the table. They would be paid $200 a person.
Melissa Mormon, a 3-year employee working at the NIA Center branch, says illegals would walk in with fake birth certificates, social security cards, and utility bills. 2 co-workers, according to Mormon, would then give them the fast pass treatment. No lines, no tests, just licenses for cash.
My ID was being used in order to pin me into this game.
Her whistleblower letter, dated October 29th, 2024, warned management that her employee credentials were being used, even when she wasn't at work. Investigators later said that her ID popped up in more than 2,000 shady transactions.
They actually took my phone and looked through all my messages. They looked through my Cash App. They looked through my Zelle, just to prove they know I didn't wasn't involved in any of this business venture.
Mormon says she turned over everything to clear her name, but after getting grilled 3 times in just one day, she was fired over the phone.
I want to clear my name. I want to let people know out there that I wasn't involved in any type of legal activity.
Her attorney, Gary Adams, calls it textbook retaliation for exposing fraud and abuse of authority, and he's suing under Kentucky's Whistleblower Act.
As soon as she tells them everything she knows, she gives them everything she can to exonerate herself, she gets fired.
But instead of clearing her name, Melissa Mormon says she got branded the culprit.
I want to clear my name.
Y'all see this? And when I talk about the Office of the New American, I'm going to show how policy, politicians, and philanthropists are pushing this type of behavior on behalf of the immigrant. So we're gonna break all of that down. Brother Divine, any thoughts before I move on to Camilla Moore?
Yeah. I'm so glad you played that. I was wondering if we were gonna go there. I was actually reserving some of that for my final thoughts, but I'm glad we could get them off. I can get them off now and clear the way for something else that comes up during this time. One of the things I wanted to mention, and I think I've said it here on the bridge before, and I think it was something Sister Marcia said about being colonized. And that is our biggest issue that we have with the Afro immigrants that we have labeled tethered. Like, we have to understand what tether means, right? And so a tether is an Afro immigrant that undermines the Black American collective for personal gain. Nothing less, nothing more. And when we understand how the tether class operates, we understand that in the same way we hear that saying of how hurt people, what we're seeing with the tether class is that colonized people colonize people. And the pushback that we're getting is that we have never been a people that have laid down and passively accepted abuse or passively accepted oppression. That has never been our lot in life or our reality. And so what the tether class and their allies are starting to see and realize is that they will be no different, and melanin will not be a pass. And so this idea that we will allow them to do what they want because of melanin. Again, I know I constantly say this, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but it just is what it is. And I'll need this to be beat into the psyches of our people. Pan-Africanism is the issue. Pan-Africanism is the vehicle by which they convinced us that these Afro immigrants are different than the white immigrants, are different from the Asian immigrants that come over and do the exact same thing. When we talk about, supporting Black business, you know what? That's the thing. Because when you circulate your money within your community, you can build community. We talk about not supporting or not going to an Asian business or not going to a Middle Eastern business because they're going to take those profits and those are going to be funneled out of the community. I have news for you. When you support that Haitian business, that Jamaican business, that Nigerian business, those African hair braiders, the same thing is happening. They're taking those Black American dollars, those Black American profits, and they're being sent back home in the form of remittances and being sent back home in the form of those barrels that we can get in Breuck's old stomping grounds that they send back home. Those aren't being circulated back into our communities to build community. That's the con game of Pan-Africanism, to make you believe that because these people look like us, they're going to build community with us. And we've seen, now it's been exposed. There's no more guesswork. There's no more, we don't have to worry or wonder about it or ponder it. It has been exposed in 2025 and going to continue to be exposed in 2026. That these people, to quote a Nigerian PhD from Twitter space, we come to America to have a better life by any means necessary. That's the by any means necessary that they govern themselves with. By any means I don't care what family member I had to step over to leave my homeland to come to America. I don't care who I had to sell out. And I damn sure don't care who I got to undermine when I get here. Because I'm going to have that better life by any means necessary. And let me say one last thing, because I seen you play that video and I'm glad that you did, because like I said, this is what was going to be part of my final thoughts. These bitch ass Democratic shills. And we talk about Deontay Cal or tragic mulatto Malante Cal talking up there talking about we are the blackest of the black and you got a whole white mother. Now that doesn't automatically disqualify you from talking on black issues, but you need to know your place. When you're coming in with dual allegiances and you're a part of the oppressive class and you're trying to chastise Black Americans that are advocating specifically for Black Americans, and you got the nerve to fix your allegedly LGBT lips on our lineage, talking about who ain't outside, and we got proof of being indoors, outdoors, outside, rough terrain, smooth terrain, wherever you want to take it. We will fight you on the ice. It don't matter where you go. If you are opposing our lineage, we will be there. And these are the gaslighting techniques of these people because they cannot and will not debate us on the facts about what they're attempting to do. It's a smear campaign. And for the record, I'll end here. I just want to read the title of the first Hidden Colors, because I think this is important. Tariq can defend himself, but this needs to be known for the record. Hidden Colors Part 1, The Untold History of People of Aboriginal, Moor, and African Descent. It was never a movie about Pan-Africanism.
Huh?
There is a difference between Pan-Africanism and global unity based on melanin. Those are two separate things. And that's where they get the game fucked up. The colonizing mind of a Pan-African is to take anything involving melanin and make it Pan-Africanism. Ask a Pan-African what Pan-Africanism is. Ask 2 or 3 of them. You'll get 2 or 3 different answers. And they'll start talking about things that anybody can do, whether you're a Pan-African or not. By most of their definitions, they would label those Asians and white Africans that are there now doing business and building things, they would label that as Pan-Africanism. And most do, which is why they have more smoke for us than they have for those colonizers recolonizing their homeland. And I'll land there.
Yo, enough said. Enough said. Enough said. Let's get into this clip with Camilla Moore, and then I will go into my spiel about the Office of the New American, which ties all of this together. And it also brings into clarification of why when Brother Divine and the U.S. Freedmen's Project reached out to all of these groups in the state of New York in support of lineage-based reparations, he didn't get a response. It's going to tie it all together. Let's play this clip and we'll come right back. Hold on.
Process and continue to hold hands together as you guys move from the reparations task force phase to turning whatever recommendations you all have into legislation. I think that's the most important thing. So be more intentional about outreaching to the community, be more intentional about hearing from the community in terms of what reparations looks like to them, be intentional about actually incorporating the community's thoughts into your recommendations so that there's buy-in, collective buy-in from all stakeholders, the task force, the legislature, and the community all at once, but with the community in the lead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We just want to hear from our experts, and we have, and we are so grateful to both Dr. Bailey and Dr. Moore. Right now, we're going to make space for our state senator to come and share words.
California Reparations Task Force, we finished our
Sorry
work
about that.
in
I had to
June of
rewind.
2023. So in June of 2026, it'll be 3 years since the commission finished our work. And now it's up to the California State Legislature to turn our over 200 policy recommendations that was within our over 1,000-page report. It's up to the California State Legislature now to turn those recommendations into actual law. And then, of course, it's up to the governor of our state to sign those laws. So yeah, also without further ado, I also want to just ground this conversation. I want to give honor to God, who is the head of my life, but also I want to give honor to the ancestors, right? Actual enslaved Africans in the United States, for which if they did not labor, I would not be here today. Also, thank you so much, Dr. Bailey, for uplifting the name of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is his birthday weekend this weekend, and I'll also be mentioning him in my presentation as well. So essentially, my presentation is called Truth and Transformation, which we know is the general theme of this hearing. But in terms of my takeaway from this theme, I thought, how could I contribute to this conversation? Being the chair of the California Reparations Task Force with the work already being completed. And so I saw it as, how can I help the New York Reparations Task Force kind of wrap their heads around going from truth to transformation, from historical record to public obligation, to New York State actually, taking whatever you guys come up with in terms of the documented harms and the recommendations, and how do we get to the point where we actually get New York State to implement those recommendations. Truth and transformation are not just slogans in the reparations context. They actually describe a moral and legal consequence. Under international law, reparations are governed by 5 recognized forms. So when most Americans, when they think about reparations, they just think about compensation or cash payments. But actually under international law, there's an actual legal definition. And within that definition encompass 5 forms of reparations. So compensation is one of the forms of reparations under international law, but it's not limited to compensation. Compensation is very important, and we can't talk about reparations without talking about compensation. But there are other forms of reparations under international law as well, which Dr. Bailey also mentioned, like satisfaction. Satisfaction is more symbolic forms of reparations, like memorials, like a formal apology for slavery and systemic discrimination from the state of New York, for instance. Rehabilitation is another form of reparations under international law, Dr. Bailey in her presentation mentioned some suggested recommendations. For instance, community centers. That was actually one of the recommendations from the California Reparations Task Force, like community centers. That is a form of reparations under the bucket of, you could say, rehabilitation, right? How do we rehabilitate the mind, the body, based on, the traumas that Black Americans have faced, in this country. And then also restitution is another form of reparations under international law. And in the state of California, we've actually made a lot of progress in terms of restitution. A lot of people may or may not have heard about, for instance, the Breuck beach, where in the 1900s, there was a African-American couple who owned like a beach resort in Manhattan Beach. But the Manhattan Beach City Council at the time in the 1900s took the land away from them under racially motivated eminent domain. And that land laid vacant for decades until a few years ago, when Los Angeles County worked to find the descendants of that African-American couple, and they were able to provide some type of monetary compensation for, to the descendants. And the only reason why they didn't get the land back is because Manhattan Beach City Council still rezoned the land. So instead of it being, business oriented, where they could, get money from LA County and put a hotel back on that land, Manhattan Beach refused to rezone the land. So it could only be used for, a park or residential. And, the descendants didn't really want to do that. So, but that's an example of restitution. How do you take account for stolen land, stolen property, things like that? And then the last but not least, the last form of reparations under international law is guarantees of non-repetition. And it's actually one of the hardest forms of reparations to achieve, because it's tackling the fundamental question of how do you get the state or the harming party to stop harming, the injured group, right? So, that could take into, account for, restructuring of different public policies and things like that. And so also I wanted to mention that a core principle under international law is that the injured group must lead. The injured group must dictate what repair looks like to them, right? So it's not enough so governments exist to facilitate repair, right? The New York Reparations Commission exists to facilitate the repair, not to define, what repair looks like for the injured group, and not to define or dilute its meaning. That principle shaped California's work, and it should shape New York's work as well. So just a little bit about California's work and just how we were structured. California began this process through a formal study and development phase mandated by law. The Reparations Task Force was charged with investigating the history of slavery and systemic discrimination, documenting how those harms were created and sustained through public policy. We heard directly from affected communities, the descendants of enslaved African Americans, and we engaged with economists and legal scholars to translate that history into reparations proposals. In doing so, the task force documented how Black Californians were systemically excluded from the New Deal programs, for example, the GI Bill, the Federal Housing Administration mortgage programs, and other state and federal policies, producing a wealth gap that persists today. That was not an abstract finding. It was an evidentiary record of state-created harm. In reparations, truth is not something to be endlessly argued about. It is something that must be documented so that the state is legally required to respond. I mentioned that I was going to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. very briefly. In some of his speeches before he was assassinated, he talked about one of the examples of these exclusionary public policies. He talked about the Federal Homestead Act, right? Where, and in his words, so to speak, he mentioned, right, while the United States government was refusing, right, to undergird African Americans with an economic floor, at the same time, the United States government was allowing thousands and thousands of Europeans, poor Europeans, to come to the United States and undergirding them with an economic floor, providing them thousands and thousands and thousands of free land, of free acres, right? While at the same time excluding African Americans from that policy. Yeah, there were some African Americans who were able to benefit from the Homestead Act, but by and large, African Americans were excluded from the Homestead Act. And that's just one example, right, of exclusionary public policies on the state and federal level. And what are the present day impacts of that exclusionary public policy, right? One example of that, what we uncovered under the California Reparations Task Force, we uncovered that there's nearly a quarter of the adult population in the United States are still economic benefactors of the Homestead Act, right? So that's a quarter of the white adult population in the United States still benefits from the fact that their ancestors got free land from the Homestead Act, right? And they still benefit from that exclusionary public policy in many ways. Either they still had the land in their family, they sold it, throughout their lineage, they were able to make a profit and then turn that into other things. So again, these are just one example. And Martin Luther King Jr. mentioned this in the 60s, right? One example of a piece of exclusionary public policy that has aided in this wealth gap that exists between Black Americans and white Americans, which presently, without a reparative justice framework, it would take over 250 years to close that wealth gap. Okay, so what California produced was not simply a report, it produced a reparations architecture. I think that's one of the high-level takeaways that I think New York would benefit from, understanding that this is reparations is a public policy conversation, right? Reparations is not some theoretical thing. When we're talking about reparations, we're talking about public policy. We're talking about public policy frameworks to rectify hundreds and hundreds of years of exclusionary public policy, from the GI Bill, to the Federal Housing Administration bills, to the Homestead Act, but starting with slavery, right? Slavery was the first example of exclusionary public policy that has led to this huge racial wealth gap. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about reparations. We're having a public policy conversation, and we're having a conversation around building an architecture to rectify decades and decades, centuries even, of exclusionary public policy. So the reparations architecture includes a defined harm population. You got to know who is the population that has been harmed. You have to define that, right? You also have to provide or design remedies and an administrative structure to deliver those remedies. You have to also provide a funding mechanism to sustain them, right? That is how moral claims become governmental responsibility. The California Reparations Task Force, we also hired 5 economists. We took our job very, very seriously. We found some of the top economists in the country and in the world even, because we even had a German economist on our team. And the economists played a critical role in this transformation. They were able to find data to show and prove that the state of California has discriminated against Black Californians, at least in 5 areas: health harms, housing, houselessness and housing segregation, mass incarceration and over-policing, and other areas as well. The task force produced payment frameworks that translated these harms into compensation models that in some cases reached 6-figure amounts per person, depending on years of residency and exposure. The recommendation of direct cash payments was therefore not symbolic. It was damages. It was how historical injustice was converted into the language of budgets, statutes, and policy. So overall, throughout the 5 areas, I think the total was like $800 billion. And that's a figure that, a lot of the news, kind of like Fox News and other places like that, they just like took hold to, they didn't really understand. They just saw $800 billion. So there's the headline is like, California's crazy reparation task force is recommending, the state provide Black people $800 billion. But that kind of misses exactly what the economists were trying to, say. Essentially what the economists were saying is throughout all those 5 areas, California has discriminated against Black Americans to the tune of $800 billion. $800 billion from statehood, which is 1852 to present, right? Due to California's involvement in slavery, due to California's involvement in health harms against African Americans, due to California's involvement in housing segregation, due to California's involvement in mass incarceration over policing, due to California's involvement in the lack of Black business formation or in the involvement of Black business discrimination. They counted all the numerical data up, and they found that, again, $800 billion. So that's not a gift. Essentially, that's not what we were trying to say, that the state should give Black people $800 billion. The framework, the argument from the economists was, and this was truth backed up in numbers and data, that's how much Black people in California were deprived of in terms of the freedom to make businesses, in terms of the freedom for their businesses to not be discriminated against.
Just wanted y'all to get a little bit of understanding of, and even for California to complain about $800 billion is a joke, right? Because their national GDP is over $4 trillion, right? So that's a drop in the bucket, $800 billion. I think New York's GDP is $2.8 trillion. That's a drop in the bucket. So they can't play with me with them numbers like that. I ain't a mathematician, but I know what a drop in the bucket is. But I want us to begin to understand policy and why it is that all of these migrants, whether legal or illegal, are getting all of these set-asides and handouts, and they shouldn't be, right? Where does, the idea that they should break the law to give people licenses or give them certification when, they shouldn't have it? Where does this idea come from? Well, let's break it down. Let's get into it. What offices of New Americans are, right? Offices of New Americans or owners are state and local government entities designed to facilitate the economic, social, and civic integration of immigrants and refugees. These offices, often supported by the American Immigration Council and WES, focus on workforce development, licensing, and creating welcoming communities. How they operate: by workforce and economic development, licensing and credential recognition, civic participation and naturalization, local government coordination. The key aspects of owners, their purpose, the primary goal is to help newcomers thrive, fill labor shortages, and promote entrepreneurship. State level actions. States like Michigan have established specific offices for New Americans to coordinate immigrant services, improve licensing for foreign trained professionals, and support the Global Michigan Initiative. Whether they're legal or illegal, just want you to know that. Owners are built around 3 main policy goals: labor market integration. They aim to address labor shortages in healthcare, construction, tech, and service sectors. Now think about the hospitals. You ever thought about why so many Caribbeans work within the hospital? How did that happen? How did they jump ahead of Americans? How did that happen? When you look at these construction sites today, I think Sister Breuck mentioned it last week, all of these Latinos, where do they come from? What you mean, no Black men want to work construction? How did that happen? When you look at the tech industry, the Indians, the Chinese, all the Asians, How did they jump ahead of Black Americans? These are the owners. Help foreign trained professionals navigate U.S. licensing systems. Place immigrants into faster employment pipelines. This is why workforce boards, chambers of commerce, and employers are often partners. Many owners promote small business formation among immigrant populations. So when people say, well, the Latinos, they come and they thrive and they build their own communities. The Caribbean come, they thrive, they build their own communities. They are fast-tracked to do so, to be a gatekeeper for us not attaining reparations. Access to capital, business licenses, technical assistance, immigrant entrepreneurship as a driver of local GDP growth. The framing is explicitly economic, not humanitarian. Owners support English language acquisition, naturalization and citizenship clinics, voter education, where legally permitted, welcoming city-state initiatives designed to signal safety and inclusion. How they are structured. States such as Michigan, New York, Illinois, Colorado, and California have formal owners embedded in their departments of labor, economic development agencies, governor's offices. Michigan's Office of Global Michigan, for example, focuses on foreign credential recognition, aligns immigration with statewide economic strategy, explicitly ties immigration to population growth and workforce replacement. Now, you ever thought about how all of these migrants came over here? They got all these mopeds and e-bikes and working for Uber and Lyft or Instacart or wherever. How did they get those jobs so fast without no background investigation? How did they get licenses so fast? It is these owners, these Office of New Americans, that are helping them fast track. And, you and I, we have to have credentials, we have to have licenses, and a whole litany of things before we can move forward. They do not. So, the Office of New Americans State Network is not a government agency, but a policy coordination hub supported by groups like the American Immigration Council, World Education Services, or WES, philanthropic foundations. The network provides model legislation, policy toolkits, technical assistance, messaging frameworks. This is how similar owner structures appear across different states. White House Task Force on New Americans created during the Obama administration. This task force coordinates federal agencies on immigration integration, supported local welcoming community campaigns, emphasized naturalization and economic inclusion. While not always active, the framework remains influential. The New Deal for New Americans Act, y'all should read that in your spare time. This proposal would create a National Office of New Americans, centralized immigration integration policy, standardized funding, and metrics across states. It has not passed, but signals long-term federal ambitions. They are rewriting the New Deal specifically to benefit legal and illegal who come into this country. New American Leaders focuses on political leadership pipelines for immigrants and refugees, including training candidates for public office. Zohran Mamdani, Ilhan Omar, AOC. Y'all better pay attention in how you vote, because we are voting ourselves into our own oppression. A think tank focused on technology, geopolitics, and policy often confused with owners, but structurally unrelated. These organizations, share funding ecosystems and ideological alignment, but serve different functions. Why they are political? Owners matter because they shape state demographic strategy, influence labor policy and credentialing laws, affect resource allocation at state and municipal levels, institutionalize immigrant integration as permanent governance, not temporary aid. So this is going to go on. This is going to go on. And that's why Trump has to repeal DEI. He has to dismantle it because it's not working for the people it was meant to. It was meant to work for Black Americans, not everybody else. And you have to dismantle it because it's now embedded into policy. They represent a shift from immigration as a federal issue to immigration as local economic policy. So, these offices of the New Americans are not symbolic offices. They are operational policy entities, economically motivated, embedded in long-term demographic planning, supported by national advocacy and philanthropic networks. Understanding owners is essential for analyzing labor markets, political representation, public funding priorities, and state-level demographic strategy in the United States. How they are funded. There are four main channels of funding. State and local government appropriations. Most owners are formally housed within governor's offices, departments of labor, economic development agencies, mayor's offices. Funding sources include state general funds, workforce development budgets, economic revitalization allocations. This money typically covers staff salaries, administrative operations, program coordinations. This makes owners permanent policy infrastructure, not temporary nonprofit projects. Federal funds. Owners often act as coordinators or pass-through entities for federal funds, including, like I said, the Department of Labor, the Department of Health and Human Services, Refugee Resettlement and Integration Funds. You know, when my husband was in a hospital last year during the summer, and there was a migrant who was in his room. The man couldn't speak a lick of English, but he was getting the best of care. Meanwhile, I have to pay insurance, or my husband has to pay for medical insurance, right? And some things are covered and some things are not, right? We don't get no freebies over here. Community development block grants at the municipal level. While owners may not directly receive all federal dollars, they design implementation plans, select nonprofit partners, align federal funds with state priorities. This gives owners agenda setting power. Okay? Agenda setting power. But we regulate it to studies, even when funds are federal. And that's why President Trump said it's illegal. They cannot do that. And everybody's in an uproar. Are you crazy? These people are breaking the law. Philanthropic foundations. Who's funding them? The major funders include the Ford Foundation, Open Society Foundations, Carnegie Corporation, Kellogg Foundation, Annie E. Casey Foundation. Philanthropic funding is used to launch owners before legislators fully fund them. Pilot programs and data systems produce policy research and best practices, support messaging and public engagement campaigns. From the corporate partnerships, some owners receive employer sponsorships. And so when these hospital administrators have meetings with these owners and these politicians, they are working out deals to bring immigrants across the shores so that they could work for cheap. But when I see them outside protesting for better wages, nah, you keep what you got. You were a scab from the beginning. Keep what you got. You said we were lazy. We didn't want those jobs. When we were out here fighting for better wages, better working conditions, you brought your asses over thinking you knew better. Nah, stick with what you get. You don't deserve no increase. Industry partnerships, healthcare systems, manufacturing, and tech. These funds are often embarked for credential recognition pipelines, apprenticeships, fast-track licensing initiatives. Isn't that what the lady in Kentucky was talking about? They fast-tracking licensing for folks. This ties owners directly to labor market needs, not just community support. How did they come about? They didn't arise organically from immigrant communities. They emerged from elite policy senses in the early 21st century. Phase one, after 1996, Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act. The federal government tightened enforcement, reduced federal responsibility for integration, and the result, state and cities were left to manage the economic and social consequences of mass immigration without centralization system. This created a governance gap. So when the migrants, let's use New York, because I live here, and we live here, so I can say I know what I'm talking about. When the migrants came here, you remember Eric Adams saying that, and Governor Kathy Hochul saying that they didn't get any funding from the federal government and that they were left holding the bag. This is all in play. This is all in play. Never fall for the okie doke. Phase two, after the 2008 financial crash, native-born population growth slowed. Rural and industrial states faced labor shortages. Birth rates declined. Aging workforce accelerated. Policy planners began openly framing immigration as a workforce replacement strategy, a population stabilization tool. Owners emerged as the administrative solution to align immigration with state economic survival. Now that's a lie. You mean to tell me there's no young Black people who wanted jobs? That's a lie. But we won't work for no crap. We won't work for less than what we're worth. They'll do it. The Obama administration, institutionalization. The White House Task Force on New Americans in 2014 formalized this approach. Immigration reframed as integration. Emphasis on welcoming communities. Encouragements for states to build permanent offices. This is when owners spread rapidly. Model legislation and toolkits were distributed. National coordination, networks were formed. Philanthropy and policy alignment. Simultaneously, foundations funded integration frameworks. Think tanks like the American Immigration Council, WES, provided technical blueprints. States adopted nearly identical owner structures. This explains why owners across states use similar language, have similar priorities, follow similar metrics. This was intentional standardization, not coincidence. What they are functionally designed to do: convert immigrants into workers quickly, reduce friction in licensing and credentialing. So when you had these migrants out here getting CDL license and driving trucks with no credentialing, crashing into people and all kind of stuff, it was fast-tracked through these offices. Anchor immigrants politically and civically at the local level. Stabilize state economies facing demographic decline. Humanitarian language exists, but the primary driver is economic governance. They are structurally a parallel infrastructure for immigrant integration, permanent state investment in one demographic group's onboarding, a shift in how public resources are allocated under economic necessity. They are not neutral. They reflect policy choices about labor, population, and political power. The bottom line, owners came about because the federal government retreated from integration responsibility. States needed labor and population growth. Philanthropy and policy elites provided ready-made governance models. They are funded by state budgets, federal workforce, and integration grants, philanthropic infrastructure money, employer-aligned programs. New York Office for the New American is a state-level immigrant integration agency created by statute in 2012, the first of its kind in the United States. Again, we were the first sanctuary city. It is part of New York State Department of State, rather than being housed in a typical workforce or economic agency. ONA defines New Americans broadly to include people born abroad and their children, regardless of immigration status, emphasizing on integration into social, civic, and economic life. Now, let's think back to 2012 in New York. Who was the governor? Andrew Cuomo. Who was the mayor? Mike Bloomberg. The senior citizen, the senior senator, Chuck Schumer. The junior senator, Christian Gillibrand, and Eric Adams, also a junior senator at this time. Key congressional representatives included Nita Lowey, Gerald Nadler, and Charles Rangel, among others. Core services and program areas. New York's ONA administrators a network of programs and services that operate statewide through partnerships with community-based providers. Opportunity centers. Neighborhood-based centers provide English language learning, naturalization and citizenship application help, civics education, workshops, and community information. The network is geographically distributed to reach immigrants across the state. Free immigration legal support, including asylum applications, deportation defense, and other legal assistance delivered through funded community legal partners, workforce development and professional pathways, job readiness training, credential recognition, professional retraining, placement, and high-skilled immigrants in the fields of engineering, IT, education, social work, etc. They formed hotlines, mental health initiatives. All of this is problematic. Excuse me. New York's ONA is funded through state budget appropriation, targeted grant allocation. Funding is used to support grant programs delivered by nonprofit partners, plus ONA's internal program administration. Fiscal year budget 23 included $20 million to expand the sustained ONA programs statewide. In the summer of 2022, Kathy Hochul announced $8.7 million in new grants for naturalization and legal service delivered through ONA's opportunity centers for legal counsels. They got them lawyers and everything. Professional pathways for skilled immigrants, about $4.38 million in grants to expand workforce support for internationally trained professionals. Keep bringing them nurses and stuff over here. See, y'all think it's a joke. The more we vote, the worse our conditions get, because y'all keep voting Democrat. ONA grants are allocated to community-based providers rather than direct state service delivery through the Catholic Church charities, legal aid societies, refugee agencies, workforce training organizations. Now, I want to move down because I want to talk about how it is in contrast with reparations. Why is it a problem? Owner and reparations, structural tension, not neutrality. Different policy logics. Reparations are backward-looking and lineage-based. They address a specific historical crime tied to U.S. chattel slavery and its afterlife, and a specific harm population. Owners are forward-looking and population-based. They focus on integrating newcomers to meet current and future economic needs. These logics do not naturally align. Owners are permanently funded, programmatically expansive, politically insulated, immigration framed as economic necessity. Reparations proposals are often temporary commissioned, underfunded, framed as controversial or divisive. In zero-sum budget environments, owners normalize ongoing public investment in newcomers while reparations remain understudy. Owners' framework often emphasize historic exclusion without specificity, marginalized communities without lineage, equity, detached from historical causation. This can blur the moral and legal clarity of reparations. By replacing a specific debt with a general inclusion framework, treating enslavement as a hardship among many rather than a foundational crime. The key issue: reparations require liability and repair. Owners operate in a separate delivery model as not liability. Owners depend on aggregation. This is why people pissed off when we talk about disaggregation. Immigrants are treated as a single category as new Americans, often emphasize growth, contribution, and integration outcomes. Racial and ethnic distinctions are minimized in favor of nativity. This directly conflicts with foundational Black American disaggregation, which requires lineage specificity, separation of Black populations by historical relationship to U.S. slavery, precise data on harms and outcomes. Why disaggregation is a threat to that owner logic? If Black data is disaggregated, socioeconomic disparities tied specifically to slavery become undeniable. Aggregated Black progress narratives collapse. Immigrant success is no longer statistically interchangeable with FBA outcomes. This undermines race-neutral equity claims, broad diversity frameworks, all marginalized groups together policy models. Structural reality. Owners benefit from compressed categories. Reparations require expanded precision. The administrative inertia. Data collection standards. Reporting categories in workforce programs, definitions used in state equity initiatives. Once these systems are built, they resist disaggregation, default to nativity-based or race-neutral category. Treat lineage-based claims as administratively complex. This is not accidental. It is governance and convenience. The least discussed intersection. Owners are explicitly designed to fast-track these immigrants into job. Remove those barriers that they may have, right? This creates a downward pressure in labor markets where Black American workers are already underemployed. Credential barriers are historically used to exclude Black Americans. Public investment into their labor development has been inconsistent. Now they putting all this money into these migrants, but they ain't putting no money into you. Though through owners, state subsidize, that placement, that language training, all of this crap. There is no parallel specific infrastructure for foundational Black Americans whose labor was historically exploited without compensation. In the effect, the state actively underwrites one group's integration while still debating whether it owes restitution to another. Employers benefit from the expanded labor supply. They reduce wage pressure. State-supported worker readiness. Meanwhile, Black labor grievance are reframed as skill gaps. Y'all don't got enough skills. Go back to school. Get some more education. Then come back. Structural exclusion is treated as individual failure. Reparations are dismissed as too expensive. This policy engineered imbalance, not natural market outcome. So I don't want y'all to keep going with these talking points. They don't know where they can get this money from. When these people say, well, we got to move past slavery. Nah, nigga, we staying right here. We staying right here. Disaggregation is a pressure point. It focuses on fiscal honesty, clarifies who is owed what and why, prevents substitution narratives. This is why it is resisted quietly but consistently. And that's why when they asked Obama, when they asked Kamala Harris, could you do something specifically for Black people? They both said no. No. We got to focus on this. That's why they said it. That's why they said it. That's why Brother Devon didn't get a response from over 100 goddamn organizations from the diaspora who reside in New York. That's why they didn't offer a response. They can't. And they won't. So the bottom line, intersection with reparations, disaggregation, and labor competition by absorbing public resources that reparations claims must still fight to access, benefiting from aggregated data that disaggregation seeks to dismantle, accelerating labor market competition without addressing historical labor theft. These systems can coexist, but only if reparations are kept distinct, lineage-based, and protected from the delusion of the general equality frameworks. And I'll land there. I want to hear your thoughts on this breakdown of these owners. Anyone can take it first. You gotta unmute, sis.
I said I'm gonna let President Devon go first.
Oh man. Wow. I know we've been here for a while now, getting to the point where, I'm feeling like a part of the team in a permanent fixture, but not in a disrespectful way. But I'm always in awe of the way in which you deep dive and break these topics down. And how, like I said, just in divine order, no pun intended, and divine providence, just how the things that you start to talk about frame and give the context and put the meat on the bones of the work that we were doing, not understanding like some of this backstory, right? That now just kind of fills it out for us in real time, or at least for me. And it's just always a powerful experience. And so when the quote unquote migrant crisis was happening, there was a number of advocates in other cities telling us, hey, you got to really keep your eye on this Office of New Americans thing. It's going on in all these states, and most people aren't even aware of it. And at that time, I had no idea what an Office for New American was. I knew what a New American was, but I had no idea that not only do they have an office in my city, in my state, the state that foundational Black Americans built, but there was a network of them around the country. And so at that time, it was really confusing, at least to me. I'll speak for myself. It was confusing on why, as we started to learn about these different laser focused and lineage specific advocacy organizations and groups, why we were receiving so much pushback at the time for doing exactly what all these other groups were doing. But we never knew the extent to which they were doing it, right? Because again, I will always say that I'm a recovering Pan-Africanist. I mean, I'm not ashamed of that. I make no bones about it. And I was a Pan-Africanist until I started interacting with actual Africans. And so at the same time, I never had any issue with inclusivity. I never had an issue with diversity, equity, inclusion, right? And even though I didn't go to school for it and get a gender studies degree, on the surface, I didn't really have an issue with intersectionality until I understood that all of these avenues, usually implemented by left-wing white supremacy and the Democratic Party, use intersectionality to leave foundational Black Americans in the intersection while they take the detour to the resources and leave us playing in traffic by ourselves. And so when you understand, I told somebody and they were like, yeah, you know, why should we vote? And/or how are they getting all these things without voting? And now this, and I'll land here, this presentation really put it in perspective. My own answer that I gave at the time, again, is just give me more context. I said, when you understand what's going on with the migrants, AKA the illegal aliens, I want you to understand that this is what it looks like. The reason why they're getting all these resources is because this is what it looks like when the system advocates for you, and you don't have to advocate for the system to do for you. But I had no idea until this very moment on how deep the advocacy for these other groups that are not foundational Black American really goes. And like you said, it's a consortium, it's a cabal.
Exactly.
Of entities. And it kind of just puts more meat in the bun. I hope I'm not stepping on her toes. I know she just finished reading it, but it also puts the back of the hiring line in a whole new light, because you understand now how deep this cabal goes and how organized it is against us. And so it just spits in the face of the entire narrative of, oh, I came here with nothing or 2 nickels or $1 in my pocket. We understand that white supremacy gives whiteness. You get $1 billion worth of whiteness no matter how rich or poor you are. And we're seeing that the Democratic Party is giving out billions of dollars worth of immigration status. And it's something that we can never tap into because we're not immigrants.
That's a fact. That's a fact. It bugged me out when I was really doing the research and I'm taking things and I'm writing it while I was typing, taking things and typing. I'm like, this is crazy how deep this thing goes. And like you said, it's definitely a cabal. Sister Breuck.
So to add more, I sent you a video, Keisha. I don't know if you want to.
I got it queued up.
Okay.
When you want me to play it.
Go ahead. Let's play that and then I'll talk.
All right, here we go.
It's only the first few minutes because the rest she goes into some personal stuff which I don't really care about.
Okay, hold on.
It's sad, but whatever.
Let me get it up in the queue. Here we go.
Grown up with, but also had gone to nursing school with. This friend got her green card approved and came to America, right? I mean, the plane landed on Ocean Parkway. She hopped out that bitch and she was like, I'm here. America, America. Now, as gung-ho as she was about it, it was very difficult for her to get acclimated because she didn't speak any English, right? Luckily for her, she ended up in Flatbush, Brooklyn, where you don't need English. Everybody in this bitch is sac passe down. You know what I mean? So she's in Flatbush now. My mom took her under her wing. She's, at the house all the time. She's taking the train, the bus. My mom is showing her how to do that. She, joined our church. And the best thing my mom did for her was set her up with this agency so that she could work. She was a working nurse in Haiti. But in America, before you can practice nursing, whether you have your degree or not, you have to go through this very lengthy, very expensive, very strenuous process of testing, certifications, all this shit that you got to do in order to practice nursing here in America. That's why, side note, when I go to the emergency room or any hospital at all, give me the foreign auntie. I don't give a fuck what country you're from. Give me the foreign auntie, okay? Because I know not only did you do it once, you basically did it twice. You did it twice. You know what the fuck you're talking about. And you didn't use ChatGPT. Give me the old foreign bitch, please. Now, my mom set her up with this agency. They gave her an assignment. This assignment was in the Bronx. All right.
Okay, you can stop it right
where I
there.
said.
So let me talk about that.
Go in.
Number one, why does everybody, especially when they elders get to a certain age, bring their elders over here? Because the medical care in their country does not equate to the medical care we have here.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever they learned over there ain't enough for our standards. That's number one. And you're not going through any more certifications than what we would have to go through if we want to be a nurse. They're going to make you start from zero because you are at zero. So you're going to have to go through the same nursing classes and prove that you know what our standards are, because they are not the same. And you see, even without it, she didn't have no papers. She said she landed on Ocean Parkway, right into a job. You can't even speak English. You mean to tell me that there was no foundational Black Americans that needed work? That probably have the right credentials and schooling? But we're being locked out and kept out of these jobs by people who know who we are, who have the same skin color that we have, but won't hire us. Or when we're already in the job and they do everything to make our lives a living hell so you could quit. So I just wanted to point out, I wanted you to see someone talking about how that actually happened for their family member, how they came here and immediately started working. You mean there's no way she got a green card that fast? There's no way she got working papers, whatever the hell you need. There's no way she got it that fast. But she was able to fast track her way right into it. No English, no nothing. Okay? Now, and then we could go on and talk about all the cheating scandals that we have seen. She's talking about how that's what she wants. She want the auntie. We have already seen the cheating scandals.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they are cheating on every single test. So they don't even know, and it shows in the medical care. Mm-hmm. So you are bringing our medical standards down to the ones you left.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's so much to talk about. Mandami right now is trying to blame Eric Adams for the lack of funding or the budget that we have. Now, everybody knows I hate Eric Adams down to his dirty, funky draws. I hate the blood that runs through his veins. I hate the air he breathes. I hate the skin on his body. I hate Eric Adams. But the truth of the matter is the budget is not Eric Adams' fault. The budget is the fact that we got this Office of New Americas and the sanctuary city process. The fact that he had to, because he started exposing it after they wouldn't help him. After the Biden, after he thought he was gonna go down to the White House, and he thought that Biden was gonna sit him in front of the fire like his pet dog, and that did not happen. He started telling the truth, and so they didn't give him no funding. He started telling the truth. I thought they was gonna help me pay for this. With you mean the when you want to talk about, because I got people trying to battle me on Instagram right now because I said it under Mount Dami's thing. This is not Eric Adams' fault. This is the fact that we got all these illegals in here. You want to talk about where the money went? The money went to the 5-star hotels. The money went into the form of EBT cards. The money went in the form of mopeds and e-bikes and little bombs that they took all across the city to set the city on fire. The money went to the fire department to set out the fires. The money went to the coats that you was given. Melrose exposed on how they come over here and then they got Jordans on their feet. The money went to Jordans. The money went to the fake health care that they was getting. Remember, I talked about on my channel the fact that they came over here and started lying about people who's not even here, saying that their mother needed health care, home care, and she wasn't even here. That was to the tune of $300,000 from one person. That's where the money went. You want to know where the money went from the city? That's where the money went to for vouchers to landlords for apartments for illegals. The money went for vouchers for furniture for illegals. The money went, come on, Medicaid for illegals. And now Mondami just sat up there and said just last week, it wasn't even a week ago, that he was sitting there talking about he was going to give them free child health care. That's some more places where the money is going. And you want to sit here and point your finger at Eric Adams? And like I said, I ain't no Eric Adams saver. But the truth is the truth. And Mandami has proven himself to be a liar from the rooter to the goddamn tutor, and I'm sick of it. And y'all want to sit here and let him, he lied to you. He lied to you and told you he was going to give you a free bus. Now it's $3. He lied to you and told you that he was going to cut taxes. Now he's giving you the reasons why he can't cut no taxes. That's what this is all about, because he's about to tell you that he's going to raise your taxes. And now we see why, where all this money is going. He wants to continue on this train of wasting money on people who don't pay into the system. That is the nefarious part about it. You're sitting there and you're giving all of this money out to people who have never paid one red cent in taxes to the state or to the federal government. I want to point out that the name of this place is called Office of New Americas or New Americans. I want to bring back my testimony at the Schomburg, where they sat there, Greg stinking ass Carr sat there with his cronies trying to tell us that we aren't Americans. Isn't it interesting that everybody who just got here yesterday can be called an American, but we, the freedmen who have been here over 400 years, that everybody who just stepped their foot over here can have the nerve to point their finger and tell us that we're not Americans? Call us by our names. We are foundational Black America. It's a problem when we state who we are, but you get to come here, you ain't been in America all but 2 days, and you going down to the Office of New Americans when we are the old Americans. And you will not run us away. You will not tell us who the fuck we are. Then we see, it is interesting how you also talked about how you got them lumped all in one group so that they can be can seem more powerful than they are. And that is why Trump is taking our lead, because understand that's where he got the idea from, and separating all of you by your ethnic groups and showing how much money you are taking from social services. I'll let this play.
You know I'm gonna find it. Hold on.
I know you will.
Give me a second, Philly. Did I got the volume on? Oh, no, sorry.
You weren't here and you did not render any services during slavery, you do not qualify for reparations. Nationality and citizenship are loud conversations today. While people are flying, boating, walking, riding into this country in the pursuit of U.S. citizenship, none of these groups share the centuries-long history we have on this land. None of them fought this government and won. None of them are owed a red cent by this nation, but the freedmen are. Freedmen, that's the title this government gave us. Foundational Black American, that's the name we chose for ourselves. We are Americans. How dare you fight for others to be called American, yet refuse to acknowledge who we are and call us by our name? We are foundational Black Americans. We were here before the U.S. was formed, before this was even a destination for immigration. We built this nation. This country wasn't a place that people longed to come to, not at first. Even Europeans didn't want to immigrate here willingly. Many were sent by force, prison, or exile. That was the bargain. They were sent here because this land was not desirable, not until we turned it into something that now the world fights to enter. Call us by our name. We are the freedmen. We are the foundational Black Americans. No disrespect. No disrespect to continental Africa or Africans, but how many of them are dying to come to America and become what we already are? Aren't thousands, no, millions of them fighting for American citizenship right now? So again, call us by our name. The refusal to recognize us by the name we chose is giving white racist Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali energy from skin folk who clearly aren't kinfolk. In today's climate,
Thank you, Breuck. We have.
Yo, that shit still makes me mad. Yo.
Shout out to Miss Kathy Dean, too. Breuck was on fire that day. Let me tell you something. For those who aren't there, Dr. Craig Carr and Dr. Ray Winbush almost got their head busted at the Schaumburg that day. They almost got their head. Them ladies from the Freedmen's Project was about to jump over that damn chair and tear their asses up. I'm trying to keep them cool. I'm trying to keep Sister Breuck cool. I'm like, yo. But when they gave their testimony, they hightailed it out of there quick. They knew they was going to get their head busted. I just had to say that.
They ain't want to stick around after for the get down, because they sitting there trying to call us Africans and call us everything but who we are, while fighting for everybody else to be this. Like I said, look at the name of this office of New Americans. Well, we the old Americans. We the OGs here. And how dare you disrespect us and put and call everybody else an American but us? And we supposed to allow that shit to happen? Not on my watch. So let me get my yalla on. Okay. So I also want to point out that this is why we are seeing everything that we fought for undone. In schools, we fought for, you know what I'm saying, or to even be more clear, we did it first and then they copied us, then took it and then removed it, and we allowed them because it was like, oh, it's a way to us to get funding. Let me explain what I mean by that, because I know I probably said things without being clear. Let's start with the free breakfast program, right? There are many programs in schools that happen like the free breakfast program. Shop class, sewing classes, all of these things that were in high school. Like I took home economics in high school. I probably was like the last generation who took home economics, who took sewing class, you know, and in home ec, you had like a little bit of sewing, you had a little bit of cooking, you had a little bit of this, you had a little bit of that. And the boys had a shop class where they did a little bit of cutting wood and a little bit of, I don't know what they did in there. You know what I'm saying? You might learn how to fix some brakes or change your oil or whatever. These are, so along with the free breakfast programs, these are all things that we were doing beforehand. Then the state or federal decide to come in and take it over. And the only reason we allowed that to happen is because they have more funding. They fund it for a little while, and then they snatch it back. This is why we don't want things like that to be in their hands anymore. We want our reparations to do it on our own because we have seen the pattern on how they do things. So now you sat here and you took construction out of the schools. You took the ability to learn how to drive a train out of the schools. You took all of these things out of the schools, and then you put it in the office of New Americans. I have a problem with that. I have a huge problem with that. Because understand office of understand New Americans, since that's what y'all want to call yourselves. This was something we started. They wouldn't have gave you nothing. We started it, but rather than to give it to us, they gave it to you. So again, you're taking things, the programs that we started. Then I wanted to clear up, because you mentioned it earlier, President Divine, when you talked about how, you know, how that first Hidden Colors wasn't really about Pan-Africanism. And you challenged me on this, and now it's my turn to challenge you on this. You weren't a Pan-Africanist. We weren't Pan-Africanists. We were about global melanated people not being subjugated. That's what we were about, because none of us was going to move to Africa. Was you going to move to Africa? I sure was, because I ain't leaving my mama. That's number one. I ain't never going to leave my mama, and my mother ain't going. My mother does not travel internationally. I have told people this. My mother's like, go where? For what? They not gonna have no laws that's gonna protect Black people when I leave. They barely protect Black people here. What you think they're gonna do to me if I go over there? She ain't never left the country. She has no desire, no want, no nothing. So me moving anywhere will never happen. I'm never, ever leaving my mama. So I don't care what you say. I don't care what you got over there. I don't care what kind of set asides or lies you tell me. You ain't got my mama. So
I was listening to a program on Saturday, and you know, they had an elder on there from the Black Panther Party originally. But you know, the verbiage really pissed me off. I didn't care how old he was. When you say to us that if we ain't looking towards Africa, we a failure. That if we not looking towards Africa, we don't know what we talking about. That if we stay focused here on what's happening here, we don't know what we doing. But you here, this is here.
Where you going?
Yo, I was getting tight, but I wanted to respect the program that it was on, so I just put a little things in the chat. But other people was in the chat pissing me the hell off. Talking about, and this is what he said. He said, all the diamonds and the gold in Africa is for you, but it ain't for the Africans. If you stop with this foolishness, these goddamn talking points is pissing me off.
Did iSpeed just go over there and try to buy a diamond and couldn't? They told it he had it in his hand, and they said we can't sell it to you because you know why? You know who owns it? The white man. So it's not for us. You've already given it over to the white man and the Chinese man and Mandami's parents before.
That's right.
So you've already given it away. There's nothing left for us or you. That's why you're over here.
That part.
So I just wanted to also say that red, when I was a kid and I used to go to the African festival to go get my red, black, and green medallion. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't even know it was the Pan-African flag. I thought red, black, and green was the flag of global blackness. That it just meant black. Like black. So this whole you used to be, I was about global blackness. So you're gonna see there's gonna be pictures of me with Pan-African colors, and green is my favorite color, just so people know. So it was very easy for me to wear a lot of red, black, and green because green is my favorite color. So it wasn't about Pan-Africanism, and because I am only now realizing what real Pan-Africanism is all about, with the inception, what it was always based on, because I never knew that. The fact that it was always about uplifting Africa, because that's not what I thought it was about. I thought it was about uplifting global blackness. But now I am realizing, so the fact that they keep trying to throw in our faces that we were Pan-Africanists, when? No, we weren't. Lies, you tell. Okay. Then I sent you a picture. Matter of fact, before we get to the picture. When we talk about the book Back of the Hiring Line, I touched on this. Because when you remove the jobs from us, it pushes some of us into a life of crime. And then from being in that life of crime, you end up getting locked up and inserted into the only legal slavery system left in this country, which is the prison system. And then another shameless plug for my good brother, Mark Batson, whom I love like family. Mark Batson's, it just got an Oscar, got nominated for an Oscar, by the way. His documentary, Alabama Solution. When you watch that documentary, Alabama Solution, you see how they push us, by that push to the back of the hiring line is not just to screw us out of jobs. It pushes us back into slavery.
We actually discussed it here on this program a little while ago, but go ahead.
It pushes us back into slavery, and that is what the ultimate goal is. So when you come to this country and I'm sure you don't give a fuck, but I'm just gonna say it. But when you come to this country to take, you are essentially participating in putting us back into slavery. And we know it. And it's too late. We will never unknow it. And we will fight you with the same fervor that we fight white supremacy, the same fervor that we took into that civil war to win, to defeat the South, to defeat the Confederates. We will take that same fight to you, because we realize that by you participating with the Office of New Americans, you are participating and pushing us back into chains, and we will never, I'm going to repeat the statement of the Jews. Never again. We will never allow you or the white man to put us back into slavery. I don't give a I gotta watch. I'm trying to watch my language. trying.
It's real, sis. That's how I felt when I was researching this. I was getting madder and madder. The more I was finding out, the more I was coming up with, I got even more angry. So, for those of you who question when I said a few episodes before, when we were having dialogue, and I said immigration has always been the problem for us. You are participating in the erasure and the demise of Black people, whether you know it or not. But now, in 2026, you know it. What you gonna do about it?
Not a goddamn thing. They're not gonna do nothing but continue to take. And that's why we gonna be like the linebackers. You won't get an inch no more because you have taken a mile. And it's time for us to knock you the fuck back into reality. Remember that video a long time ago? Not a long time ago. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. You played with a woman was talking. She was the Nicki Minaj wannabe. And she was sitting there talking about, oh, my friend used to wipe his behind with leaf, and now he has a Rolls Royce. We're gonna knock you back to wiping your behind with a leaf.
All the way back.
All the way back. Now I sent this picture of the post to Sister Keisha because this is also a part of the plan. See, when President Devine and I went to that that meeting on the census in Queens, we had to endure a lot to go to that meeting and to come home from that meeting, by the way, but we won't get into that. But when we went to that meeting about the census, they were talking about how they were trying to use these people to gain seats. Make sure you count everybody. Make sure you count. Yvette Clarke talked about, oh, we can't stop counting the illegals because then I will lose my seat. They are constantly pointing fingers at the Republicans and talking about how they are redistricting and doing the lines, redrawing the lines so that they can lose seats. And you are bringing people in here illegally to inflate the numbers so you can get seats. So now that we are correcting the numbers, we see where it really is. They are losing seats, and that's what this is all about. You mad because you can no longer lean on us to steal seats for people who don't do shit for us. And we are going to allow them to take every single one of your seats. And whichever seats that they don't take from you, we are coming for those. I'm Jessica Jackson. We coming for them seats. And we don't care who gets in there as long as it ain't you. And I'll land there.
We coming for them seats for real. Anybody else, any thoughts or comments before I move on?
Yeah, real quick. I just wanted to say that, it's just a part of a refinement system, right? The system has done this before in the early 1900s in bringing in folks. And now they're refining it so that so that the engine works correctly. So they're putting oil in places that needed oil so that it could move as it's supposed to move, and in agreement that there needs to be interruptions in this mechanism. There needs to be, whatever corrodes oil in an engine needs to be, if it's acid that's thrown at it, something needs to be thrown at it so that it stops and the people of the land can reform itself as best as possible, because they're just going to continue to do this when there is no objection. That's what's been happening for so long. There hasn't been an objection from the 1900s when the peak of people from other places came in. And of course, New York is always the launching ground for people, i.e. Ellis Island and all that stuff. But, that's what I had to say about that. And also, there's something that we should consider looking back at. And I believe in America it was done, I can't say categorically, but there was a time when, but I know in Cuba, definitely, where you situate parishes or blocks and say, everyone on this block is going to be a nurse. Everyone here is going to be a lawyer. That way you're flooding the system with people of skills. And that's what they've done. I know primarily in Cuba. I know they did it for some time in Haiti. I don't know about other countries, but definitely in the Philippines, they've definitely done this assessment of areas where they are banking them to have these skills. And in India, they bank these people to have certain skills so that they are marketable across the globe. We as Black people need to reinstitutionalize this study for our children so that they have marketable skills versus going outside and, studying whatever. But if we could have a block of people, we know that these 100 people are going to study this. We have marketable skills that we're sending out versus everyone going out and studying whatever they want as we're doing right now. And then
but as I mentioned before, sorry, but as I mentioned before, we have all of these interruptions. All of these interruptions. So say, for example, if I said, excuse me, we are going to do just that. Everybody on my street, you're going to be doctors. Everybody on the next street, you're going to be lawyers. Everybody on the street after that, so-and-so, you're going to be a politician. You're going to be a lobbyist. When you have these roadblocks that are set in policy against you, it's problematic. And a lot of people don't take that into consideration. So, we have to think as realists at this.
I hear you, sis, but at the same time, when they were doing it in places, they support these people, right? The community funds these educations.
But see, here's the thing. You can't, and I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I got what you're saying. But this ain't Cuba. And these
and it ain't we ain't communists.
Right. So
it doesn't work together to fund our children. We can't do this.
We're not forcing people to do anything. The only thing we need is for everybody to get the fuck out of our way. That's the problem. We had plenty of doctors, and we never had to force anybody to be a doctor. No, we never had to force anybody to go to school. That's communism. That's the same thing Zoran Mamdani is trying to bring to New York right now.
You're not forcing them to go to school.
When you sit there and you tell people everybody on this block has to be a doctor, that sounds like force to me.
That's not a force.
If I live on that block and I don't want to be a doctor, then what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Supported if they are
like I said, we don't need anybody to tell us what to do. All we need everybody to do is get the hell out of our way and stop trying to stop us from being who we can be naturally. We never had anybody. We never had to be forced to do anything. But you know what they forced us to do? To not be able to go to school. To not give us any funding. Maybe that might work in Haiti, but here we don't need that.
I believe this is true, especially long time ago in these southern states where people were going to universities. The community funded these people.
To do it.
Right. I get what you're saying. Hold on. I get what you're saying. That community, especially the men who were farmers, sent their daughters to colleges, right, for that purpose, right? But you have to think now. Back then, let's think the 1900s, the early 1900s, right? You had persons like Thaddeus Stevens. Thaddeus Stevens was a congressman who they dubbed the radical Republican, right? His policies, along with the senator Charles Schumer at that time, were advocated towards the free blacks, right? To make sure they had the tangibles they need so that they can thrive. A lot of people don't talk about Thaddeus Stevens, but they should. He was an ally, right? And so once those policies were set in place, we ran for the races. We took off. And we took off so fast, they came to stop it. They came to burn the neighborhoods, stop the children from going to school, stop people from marrying each other, because they weren't marrying just for love. They were marrying for legacy. When you look at that Black Wall Street, it was bigger than people could even imagine. I told you, parents wanted to come and have a conversation with them to borrow money from them. Not from the U.S., but from them, because they were so wealthy. So when you have policy in place that's thwarting that, what you're thinking is for naught. It's not going to work.
We don't need that.
Why disaggregation must be policy. So that, as you said, if we wanted to fund people to do these things, now we can. There is no longer policy in the way of that. Right now, these offices of the New American are in the way. And I would employ everybody within the sound of my voice. Stop voting Democrat. Democrat. Thaddeus Stevens went to bat with Andrew Johnson and Abraham Lincoln. Y'all wrong in what you're doing. Sidebar, he had a mulatto girlfriend. But sidebar, it's true. He said, you are a problem. You are in these people's way. So think about it. For the last 50 years, we've been voting Democrat. Since the civil rights era of the 60s, we've been voting Democrat to our own demise. And the more we vote, the worse our conditions get. And now we're at critical mass. Because when people talk about master teachers and scholars, I'm talking about what Claude Anderson said. Everything he said, we're facing it right now. So the policy, sis, has to change. Disaggregation is very, very important. We can do all we want to do. But if we got policy that's blocking us, that's a problem. So we got to stop these policies. So I get what you're saying. And you're right in your approach. I don't want you to think that you're wrong, but it's not attainable in the system that we currently live in. We got all these roadblocks. I know people who have PhDs are unemployed because they prefer to hire immigrants. You got
like my Dami's parents.
You getting professors getting kicked out of these colleges, these HBCUs in favor of migrants. So this is a problem. We got to deal with this policy first. That's why disaggregation is a must. And everybody's in an uproar because this delineation is moving so fast, they can't stop it. They can't stop it. It's a train. It's a train that's running full speed ahead. Hold on. This is from the hearing, the Zoom meeting that the Haitian community had last week or the week before. You see Thorough Black Talk right there. I make sure I get in there first because I want to see what the hell they talking about.
I'm Mona Lisa for inviting me to speak. Thank you, Pastor Mullery, for putting this very much needed forum on Haitian TPS. I want to thank our Congresswoman Yvette Clark, who's been leading this effort and part of the Haiti caucus in Congress for so many years. I want to thank her for also putting this together, as well as our leader in Congress, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, for being here tonight and giving us awareness of what him and his colleagues, including Yvette Clark, Congresswoman Yvette Clark, fighting for us up down in DC. I just wanted to say that it is great that we're convening because all of us are just an example of fighters in our community, and having to have this forum is very important ever since the decision made by the Trump administration regarding the termination of TPS. I represent the largest community of Haitian populated residents in the state of New York and Little Haiti, of which Stephanie Delia, I want to give acknowledgement for her, who also put this together, who's the executive director of Little Haiti, of which it's a very much concern for me because I represent these constituents, but I also daughter of Haitian immigrants, I understand the fear, the anxiety, and the threat of so many lives that are going to be impacted. Haitians, many Haitians, especially those with TPS status, have been living in our country for many years, have contributed billions and billions of dollars into our economy, and they have a right. They have a right to be here. We have a right. This is our home. As you know, we built this nation together, and it hasn't been for free.
What?
Me and BX was tight. And I know you was listening, I think, on BX platforms, sis, but we was tight. We was tight. So again, what about what we facing? And like what I put in the chat, but what about us? No response. No response.
And their objective
resources to help you. Are you crazy?
And I'm in 100% agreement. Their objective should not be for people, even if you came here, the people that came here need to take care of their own home. They can't rely on foreigners to take care of their home. And that's why their home is the way that it is currently, because you have all these foreign interests that you're hoping to save your goddamn self. And this is part of the whole delineation and disaggregation movement, is that people here want to take care of themselves. And like you were saying earlier, you don't want these policies to hold you hostage in taking care of yourself. And these people, unfortunately, in Haiti need to understand, take care of yourself. Stop looking for a fucking savior, because that whole Jesus proverb is not coming for you. And that's the thing that most people are looking for, is that savior. And your savior is yourself, and figuring out how you can take care of yourself.
Shout out to Aunt Marie. She over here making me laugh.
Hi, Aunt Marie. Hi, Uncle Jesse.
They're going to be cooking on me tomorrow. Hold on, family.
And with that said, this forum is very important for the purpose of understanding what resources are available, how do we respond to ICE as they're coming into our communities and unlawfully, illegally trying to deport our people to a place where they have no home.
How? We want to save the rest for next week, because y'all ain't going to believe it. But Brother Divine.
Yeah, I'm not as cool as Sister Breuck, so I didn't get a chance to send you no pre-prepared images. But if you could, Sister Keisha, because I know you'd be right on it, because I think it's apropos. This is what I was going to talk about before the back and forth, and I think it kind of highlights exactly what we're talking about. Could you do me a favor and look up some images related to the Freeman Hospital School of Nursing?
I'll see if I can find it, because I know she'll be doing a lot. Freeman Hospital.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Usually when you look it up, it'll be a nice picture of our Freeman women, one of the graduating classes of the Freeman Hospital, which is now the hospital at Howard University.
You got it. Okay.
Don't go with me. Y'all know I'll get it quick. Hold on.
On November 15th, 1894, the Freedmen's Hospital School of Nursing was founded in Washington, D.C., created by Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, one of the first Black surgeons in America. This school became a refuge for brilliance, compassion, and purpose. At a time when segregation barred Black students from most hospitals, these women built their own path with steady hands and unshakable faith. They trained the next generation of healers, served their communities with grace, and carried the power of education as resistance. They didn't just treat patients, they rewrote what was possible. Follow for more untold stories of Black excellence and legacy.
Now, in the words of Dr. King, while at the same time, right, in 1898, the Philippines becomes acquired by the U.S. And what they do to undermine the Freeman Hospital School of Nursing and from our sisters getting trained in the healthcare profession, they set up U.S. funded schools for nursing in the Philippines. Start to train Filipino women in the art of nursing, and then import those nurses to the U.S. saying there's a shortage.
Mm-hmm.
And from approximately from 1960 to present day, approximately over 150,000 Filipino nurses have come to the United States since 1960. As a result of the 1965 Immigration Act that foundational Black Americans fought to change and implement. And so that sword that I mentioned earlier cuts both ways. When I say this is what it looks like when the system advocates for you to the point where you don't have to advocate for yourself, the flip side to that is the foundational Black American reality is what it looks like when the system advocates against you, regardless of what you try to do for yourself or for your community. So when we talk about implementing programs or ideas or slight nudges or community-based encouragement or whatever else you want to call it, what does that matter when the system actively undermines whatever you're trying to do? See, if any of these other groups were on the same timeline as foundational Black Americans, there'll be Chinatowns on fire across the country right now because white domestic terrorists will be burning them down and lynching them and taking their Chinese businesses, moving them out of their homes aggressively and or violently.
Mm-hmm.
See, the issue is that none of these other groups have had to ever, Afro-immigrants included, walk in the shoes that foundational Black Americans were forced to walk in. That's just the facts. And what we're finding with that example of the Philippines, with the examples that we're seeing with the Office of New Americans and others, not only are they not on the same timeline or in the actual same multiverse as foundational Black Americans and what we did in this country, the government actively advocates for these groups using the foundational Black American story and plight as the cover. And so delineation, now we're starting to understand why it feels like it's foundational Black Americans versus everybody. Because it is. Because this country and its government advocates for all other groups.
Everybody.
Through policy and institutions that are funded by public dollars, while telling foundational Black Americans, we have to get it out the mud and we have to just support ourselves. In the words of Dr. King, not only that, telling people with no boots to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
That's why they give everybody else boots.
And delineation is not only, like I said, nudging or interrupting that apple cart, like we're kicking the whole bitch over on purpose. Because that is what it stops the floodgate from opening for these other people, and it finally starts to turn the valve off from all these other groups that have come here and sucked the teat of white supremacy while pretending they're under the same terror of white supremacy that foundational Black Americans are under. The only group that has fought white supremacy at every turn, and it's melanated foot soldiers. That's why we're fighting against other groups that are not quote unquote white. Deontay Kyle, Kunchis Lee, Roland Martin, Umar Johnson, whoever else you want to set up and prop up, Dr. Greg Carr. See, what we're not going to do is what y'all have been paid to do. Make believe that these other groups that are quote unquote non-white are fellow victims of white supremacy. Well, what we've seen is that the historical record shows that they have been their longtime partners. And the issues that they have with white supremacy are not the same issues that we have with white supremacy. Yeah, we have a common enemy, but it's for very different reasons. We have an enemy because they're our enemy. You have an enemy because I used to be friends and they betrayed you. That's a very different reality. And so you don't get to come to us to help us police your situation with your former friend. Go work that shit out on your own. Because we're not doing that no more. Don't try to sit here and put imperialism on us and blame white America for being the world police and sticking their noses where it don't belong, but then you want black Americans to be the world police to fight your battles. It don't work like that. All that shit is done. And so, yes, we will continue to delineate. We will delineate online. We will delineate offline. We will check white supremacists online. And we will check white supremacists offline. And you disrespectful ass tethers and non-white, quote unquote, tools of left-wing and right-wing white supremacy, are we going to check you online? And we damn sure going to check you offline. So you can get spicy if you want. You can get froggy if you want while you online. But again, not a threat, not a promise, but in the words of our great Foundation Black America actor, Denzel Washington, in The Equalizer, I'm preparing you. Because if you get out here and let white supremacists put their hand up your ass like you a sock puppet, and you get froggy enough to jump in person, see, we've been there and done that. So you don't want to do that. Trust me, you don't want to do that. Because all of y'all seem so willing to fight verbally everywhere but your goddamn homelands. If y'all fought half as hard as you say you're going to fight here in America for your homeland, you would still be there. Because no longer in our land here, we're not buying that bullshit ass excuse no more. That the reason why we flee is because America came and messed up our homeland, and then we fled to the same place and same people that are undermining our homeland. That shit don't make no kind of sense. I'm not running from Freddie to seek refuge with Jason or Michael Myers. That don't make no goddamn sense. Only in y'all circles, y'all echo chambers, does that make sense, because those are pre-programmed rebuttals and pre-programmed talking points that they told y'all make sense if you just say it long enough and often enough. And so, no, we're not seeing any ground. We're not stepping back. We won't be shamed into submission. You can lie on our name. You can say and do all that you want, because guess what? We've been through much worse. And we still here. Thank you.
Y'all want us to chill? You gotta chill too. I got you, brother. I got you. You would qualify because you do have a line that goes back to the enslavement in this country. If you don't, go elsewhere and appeal your claim. Stop leaning on, and that's the problem with Pan-Africanism. You all have been leaning on our legacy for so long. You don't know how to stand on your own.
I don't necessarily. That's not true. Wait, hold on.
I said what I said.
Hold on, everybody.
Online and in person. We're not playing. It's up for everybody. It's up for everybody. We need y'all to send these emails. We need y'all to continue to send these emails. Send them every day, just like I do. Because it is a part in the fight to attain what's rightfully ours. As they used to say back in the days, get out there and fight your own battles. We out here fighting our own battles. We taking down all bullies. We don't care who you are, where you are. And so, Sister Breuck, go through this while I click it on, and we're going to get the people up out of here. You got to unmute, sis. You got to unmute.
Yes, yes. Please send these emails to our legislators. President Devine gave me the most wonderful birthday present yesterday by letting me know that we have a new co-sponsor to our delineation disaggregation bill. Okay, she is a Black senator. I can show you her. Go down a little bit. Go down to email to right there. I just put it up there. I realized I had the Assembly bill, but not the Senate bill. So click on S7664. Click on that, and that'll take you straight to the whatchamacallit bill. We could shout her out. Scroll down, you see James Sanders. He's the writer of the bill. All right, there she is, Cordell Claire. She just signed up. You know, President Devine let me know yesterday. He was like, let me give you a little birthday present, right? So, yeah, she has signed up to be a co-sponsor on our bill. So, you know, we moving 100 miles an hour. Y'all can sit here and talk about FBA is only online and we ain't doing no work, but looky, okay? Looky. Out here making progress with our bills. We gonna make this. We gonna manifest this bill into a law, and the de-aggregation is gonna be on paper, and then the commuter coming near you. Okay, that's what it's gonna be. So, and this was all done because of the emails that you guys have been sending. So keep sending them. It's working. You got to send all 5, right? Send all 5 emails. So the first email is about the reparations bill that they have, the unconstitutional one. And then so I got, the links to both bills up there. So while we playing defense on the unconstitutional bill, we playing offense with the constitutionally sound bill, right? So those are all the people you sending an email to when you do make that one little click. You know what I'm saying? You sending it to all them people to get them to sponsor our bill for reparations, right? You see how fast this is going. So then emails number 2, 3, and 4 are about delineation and disaggregation. So that lady, Claire, if I saying her name right, Devine? Okay, Claire. She is on the Black Legislative Task Force. So that's email number 2, right? You would have sent an email to her by sending email number 2. So it is important for us to send all 5. You see how fast that is. So you send an email to the rest of her co-workers on the Black Legislative Task Force because they signed on for the AAPI and the MENA. So make sure you send those emails. Then the third email, you see she did it already. I didn't even finish talking. Now the third email is to all the New York legislators that signed on to do this for the AAPI, all of them, not just the Black Legislative Task Force. So that email is for that, right? So you see all those people. You see all those people that you sent an email to, just that quick by, and that is the email there. If you want to take a look, if you want to read it. Then so the next email we have, look at that, we got up to almost 50,000 emails. Okay. So then now that's you guys. So now email number 4 is to Kathy Holcomb. She is our governor. I know she sucks, but you got to send it to her too, because she needs to know. You see that number? We need to get that number up. We need to get that number up. She needs to be, we need to send as many emails to her as well, so she could, be aware that of the grassroots support that we have, right? We need to fill her email box. Okay. So make sure you send all those emails. The last one is for Numbers USA. I'm gonna be honest, I think this is gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like I might even have to, we might be taking this off the list really soon, because Dr. Jenkins looked like she was gonna bring in Andrew Barnes. You know what I'm saying? So we might take that one off the list, because that's about to happen sooner than later. I'm gonna speak that into existence. But for right now, keep sending all 5 emails, right? And you see how fast that went. So we want Andrew Barnes to come in and talk about how immigration has hurt foundational Black Americans, basically going into some of the things that we talked about today, right? Then, you heard Sister Keisha talk about remove yourself from the Democratic Party. Don't just sit on the couch. Remove yourself from the Democratic Party. And that is that. Couple of things I just wanted to go over real quick before we get out of here. One of the things I wanted to say is, I've like President Divine has a lot of movie references, and I be having a lot of cartoon and kid references from my days of working in schools and from me being a child, right? And that he made me think about green eggs and ham. I will not eat it on this. I will not eat it on a plane. I will not. That is us with delineation. We will delineate in your face. We will delineate online. We will delineate on a plane. We will delineate on a train. We will delineate on a bus. We will delineate in a rental car. We will delineate at the hearings. We will delineate in the workplace. We will delineate at the schools. We will delineate everywhere. It's too late. Send them emails, okay? I also wanted to talk about when he brought up the nurses. That brought to around my remembrance about the fact that Trump just took nursing out of being a professional degree. Now, a lot of people were very upset about that, but they did not understand what he was doing. He was correcting some of what President Divine was just talking about. Now, when you have a professional degree, that allows the schools to drive the price up, keeping us locked out of the nursing profession. The nursing is one of the things that I wanted to do, but it was very expensive to get in it. And it was a whole thing, right? And the schooling is very, very long. But by switching it out of making it a professional degree, it does not change how much you get paid. It does not change any of those things. It changed the amount that the school is able to charge you to get a nursing degree. So understand. So, President Trump is trying to correct some of that foolishness, right? Then one more gentle pushback, Marcia, when you were talking about how, no one gave pushback to the immigration that was happening in the late 1800s, early 1900s. That's untrue. As we read in the back of the hiring line, all Americans, ALL, all Americans were against immigration, including the new immigrants. They were, or the newly Americans, okay? They were also against immigration because they understood it made housing, it exacerbated that housing. It exacerbated the job market. It drove the wages down. So all Americans were against it. However, the corporations and everything kept pushing and lobbying for it to happen anyway. So every single red-blooded American, whether you were Democrat or Republican, was against immigration. So the fact that when you're saying that there was no pushback, I have to give you a little pushback on that. That's untrue. It's just that the corporations had more lobbying power and could buy the politicians. And so again, I just want to reiterate, telling people what they have to do instead of allowing them to choose what they want to do is communism. And I am against that. Now we have always been able to have plenty of doctors and all of that things are just on people doing what they want to do. Like I said, we just need the roadblocks to be removed from our way, and then we can have plenty of everything. We can have plenty of doctors, we can have plenty of lawyers, we can have plenty of everything. In fact, when it comes to the law, I think, I'm not sure if people realize that law school or what exactly was it? It's the bar was created to keep us out because of all of the progress that we were doing. So these are the problems, these are the roadblocks that we need removed. We don't need anybody coming to us and telling us, everybody, you must be a doctor, you must be a that. Just remove the roadblocks and we got everything else. We good. We good. And I'm going to end it there. Sister Keisha, thank you so much. I learned so much by sitting at your feet. I enjoy every moment. I thank you for having us and letting me be a part of this. And that's it.
No problem, sis. No problem. We are the media outlet for reparations in New York. There is no other media outlet but Thorough Black Talk. Go ahead, Brother Divine.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one tidbit I forgot going in on them Democrat shills and underminers. So just for full transparency and for also to let the family know at the other levels what's going on, in addition to the Office of New Americans, when you look at the bill that Sister Brooke just went over, the 85603, which is our constitutional reparations bill, in that bill, I mean, shout out to member Nikki Lucas, Assembly member Nikki Lucas, because when we were formulating that bill, there was some criticism from some other people who have now exposed themselves to be underminers as well, who are fronting like they're in this reparation space, so that we understand that critique wasn't valid. But the bottom line is, in that bill, why it's different from the other bills is that we called for, one, a state level Freedmen's Bureau to be instituted, but also we added money to it. And that was kind of taboo at the time because, unfortunately, most of our Black, and they'll be Foundation Black American politicians won't ask for money, right? They won't look to have their bills fully funded. And so ours called for a bureau that would have been in the city budget, in the state level budget, as a line item funded at $50 million a year, right? Now, what's crazy about that is that caused a lot of the Black and Afro-immigrant politicians to clutch their pearls. And they were just taken aback that this little organization out of nowhere, alongside member Lucas, was calling for money in a bill and all for an institution to be added into the state budget. But we didn't pull that number out of thin air. We worked with member Lucas, and here's where we got the number. And I want you guys to look this up too. In addition to the Office of New Americans, there is also something called the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs at the city level. And that city level the city level agency, here's what we got the number for, because we was like, it's got to at least be 50 million, because in that year that we crafted that bill, at the city level, not the state, just New York City, that Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs was operating at a 50 million plus budget for that fiscal year. And in addition to that, there is a coalition of mayors across the country. And I looked it up. I will get that. It's on that the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs website at the bottom. But they, again, just kind of pointing out how this system itself advocates for that demographic. There's a coalition. It is a C4, which means it's a political action committee that people can donate to. They can get money, and they advocate on behalf of immigrants, illegal and legal. And it's made up of mayors and city officials from over 200 locales across the country at the city level, in addition to the Office of New Americans, which is at the state level. So I wanted to make sure I put that out there because that's what we got the number for our bill from, looking at what they were doing for those migrants at the time on the city level alone. And that budget was 50 million plus.
Yo, that's what when you said the ONA, I thought you meant the Office of Immigrant Affairs. When I first started posting We Live, I corrected it. And then I had to go back and fix it because I thought you were talking about the Office of Immigrant Affairs. So he's like, that's what I thought you meant. But to hear that there are two separate, and we ain't got nothing but the Freeman Project. That's what we got. Okay.
Well, we've come to the end of our program. We're going to get the people up out of here. We thank y'all for rocking out with us on the Brooklyn Bridge. Thorough Black Talk is the media outlet for reparations in New York. Don't let nobody tell you anything different. If they do, they are a liar. And I'll tell them in their face, they a liar. Shout out to Brother Black and Sister Marcia. We got to go. Catch you back on the Brooklyn Bridge next week, where we're going to go in depth with FBA history, our inventions, our thoughtfulness as far as freedom fighter, and our struggle with identity. Some of you know about Michelle Alexander, who wrote the book, The New Jim Crow. Well, get to know her sister, Leslie Alexander, and she wrote two very profound books that I came in contact with. One of them is called African or American: Black Identity and Political Activism in New York City from 1784 to 1861. The second book is for you, Sister Marcia: Fear of a Black Republic, Haiti and the Birth of a Black Internationalism in the United States. So, you know about Michelle Alexander. Now you know about Leslie Alexander. Y'all better stop playing with us over here. Y'all better stop playing with us over here. Good night, y'all. You got something to say? Go ahead, Devon.
Yeah, Sister Keisha, real quick.
Brother Black.
Oh.
Go ahead, Black. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Sister Keisha, I just wanted you to, I tried to present it earlier and I didn't want to cut the wisdom because y'all was going hard. There's a post in the private chat. It's the first link post about Trump found a new czar to who's going to bust fraud. So that's another department, just like the office y'all talking about in New York, but on a federal level. And you need to put in there all the fraud that's happening as to another justification to get your reparations and get your bread. Real talk. So
right.
if you want, you
brother,
can post
I remember
it
that.
and then get out of here. I just wanted to add that part in. Peace, y'all.
Yeah. If you follow us on TikTok, you already know.
Yeah, I just want to read this real quick, Sister Keisha, before we get out of here.
Yeah.
So the people could know. It's called the Cities for Action. Is a coalition of nearly 200 U.S. mayors and county executives advocating for pro-immigrant federal policies and launching innovative, inclusive programs and policies at the local level. Our leaders have joined forces to create stronger and safer cities by driving the national debate, embracing new immigrants, and engaging with stakeholders to win on immigration policies. Cities for Action.
That's right. I found that in the research too. That's right, brother. I'm telling you, boy, it's serious out here. So catch y'all next week up on the Brooklyn Bridge. Tell somebody to tell somebody. This is where it goes down every Thursday. Good night, y'all. We are out.
On the Brooklyn Bridge tonight, voices strong, knowledge tight. Thorough black talk in the air, changing minds, changing flair. From Brother Tad to Sister K, warriors got things to say. Sister Marcy brings the heat. Brother Black Smith keeps the beat. Revolutionary waves, they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral light. Thursday nights the world will see Black Power media on a spree. Facebook, YouTube all aligned, breaking free from every bind. Social talk and politics, every voice breaks through the matrix. Commentary raw and true, for the many, not the few. Revolutionary waves, they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral light. Social talk and politics, every voice breaks through the matrix. Commentary raw and true, for the many, not the few. Revolutionary waves, they fly